EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, Johnny Mac, John McMullen, inching closer to a Week 7 matchup. Eagles at Minnesota to take on the Minnesota Vikings. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Wednesday morning, brother?
Doing well. Doing better than most people in Eagle Land, I think. A lot of wild takes I've been hearing over the past couple of days. That's the beauty of football, man. You know, Nick Sirianni always says we're the only sport that practices more than we play. So you have this constant over-analyzation of everything because it's not like baseball. You're not playing the next day. You only have a certain amount of time.
Right.
And then you're right back out there. Basketball, a couple days, high. Football, you got all this time, and then you have a mini bye, and it's like, whew, there's some takes out there.
Like what? Here, hit me with the take, John, that has made you.
Well, most notably is
or something.
There's a small group, very small group, that wants to pull the plug on the quarterback, which is insane. There's a larger group that want to take what happened in New York or North Jersey, to be specific, and translate that to this week. It just doesn't work that way in the NFL. It's so hard to, I think, and certainly the Eagles hope that will be the low point of the season. I mean, that was a shocker. I said it, that is a game I didn't see them losing. And not only did they lose it, they got their asses handed to them against a team that on paper had no right to do that. So, but that's the NFL. It happens every week. And, I'm sure the same thing is going on in Buffalo today against a better team. But,
right.
I'm sure the same thing is going on, and whoever was at Detroit and everybody else who's upset, think about the Baltimore people, Super Bowl contenders who are 1-5. I boil it down because I used to have this discussion with Jody all the time. It couldn't compute to him, and it can't compute to a lot of people. I'm not criticizing Jody. It's like you see it every week, and so many people bet and do these things, whether it's fantasy and DraftKings and blah, blah, blah. So you bet. There's constant upsets. There's constant things that, like, every single week. And that the assumption is that your favorite team's not going to get upset. And the Eagles went through this stretch where they didn't, which was historic. 4 or 5 teams in the history of this league have won 20 of 21 games. Doesn't happen often. So now that you're back in the regular realm of regular NFL football, and hey, you show up one day and you lay an egg, and the presumption that's going to continue in Minnesota, I don't know if they're going to win the game. I think they're going to win the game. They could lose the game. It's a good, not great opponent. But the presumption that they're going to play the way they did against the Giants, like in Minnesota, is just, it's not a good presumption.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. A perfect example of it, John, is one of the Monday night teams who played. If you remember, the Falcons a couple of weeks ago got beat by the Panthers 30-0.
Yeah.
And they bounced back and beat the Commanders and beat the Bills. Yeah. So, it is a week-to-week league. There's no doubt. It's good context by you. But how big are the problems? I do believe you're right where, this could be the low point. Do you think it's going to be the low point?
I do, because I can't picture them losing to a team that bad. Like, that's a bad football team. I'm not trying to sugarcoat that.
Yeah, no, I
and
know.
that's a bad football team when they have their playmakers out there.
Right.
And they weren't even out there. I'm by no means trying to sugarcoat. That was an awful performance by the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's why I think it will be a low point. You probably go in there. It's a short week. The human nature takes over. We're going to roll over this team. We always roll over this team. They probably weren't prepared to play. And yeah, I think it will be the low point. Hopefully it'll be the low point.
Yeah, we'll see how it shakes out. John, Yesterday, the coordinator spoke. What'd you take of it? We'll start with Vic Fangio. He always says some good things. Looks like Adoree Jackson's going to be back in that starting role. Make of that what you will. What were your takeaways from Vic Fangio yesterday, John?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You could see like Vic seems like he's done with Keely Ringo.
Yeah.
Again, if Quinyon Mitchell's unable to play this week, he might have to play. But I could even see them elevating sort of Mac McWilliams. I asked him about Mac at the end and going a different route completely. Obviously, Adoree's going to be at the other spot. And then you heard the answer about Jalix Hunt, who he likes and thinks has an upside, and that's a positive, but obviously hasn't lived up to the building. He also opened the door about all the edge stuff. He'd been very consistent with Jihad Campbell. He's not ready yet. He's not ready. But remember, Nakobe Dean is back. And I don't think any of us know where Nakobe is physically. He played 6 special teams snaps against the Giants. So unless you were paying attention, you didn't even notice it. But obviously that's a player that Vic loves and respects. And if he is capable of getting back in the lineup, all of a sudden you have to start thinking, is it Jihad Campbell on the edge or is it Zach Bond on the edge? Which I think might be more likely. And not all the time, but in key situations. And sort of piecemeal it like that, at least until Howie can go out and get somebody who's more of a natural edge rusher. So I thought some of that was interesting because he didn't completely shut down Jihad Campbell. I don't think he got asked specifically about Cooper, which was a little bit of a surprise. And I went back and I said, "Ooh, I should have asked about that because he could potentially move outside." But again, the issues there, he hasn't seemed confident in anybody to play the nickel, and has pretty much assessed that Adoree Jackson or Keely Ringo was better outside than the backup inside. So that doesn't bring a lot of confidence to what he was seeing from the backups inside. So a lot of moving parts, a lot of injuries, but boy, the injury talk, I mean, yeah, it's, you lose Jalen Carter, and I think that's kind of bullshit. MetLife turf, Drew Rosenhaus, to be honest, bullshit. And that's something of the business of the NFL that I think people don't think about.
When you say that, I'm assuming you mean the agents like, yo, don't play today. You don't want to get hurt. You don't want to risk it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think part of it. I'm not saying 100.
Wrong. That makes logical sense to me.
I'm not saying 100%, but a large part of it.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be back in Minnesota. Quinyon Mitchell, we'll see today. Either they misdiagnosed the hamstring or he's not playing.
Right.
Pretty simple as that. But we'll get a better indication of that this afternoon. They don't practice till late in the afternoon, so it'll be nighttime before the injury report comes out. But we'll at least get a better indication of that for tomorrow's show. If you're not paying attention, if you're moved on to other things in your life while we're still in the locker room at dinner time. We'll get a better indication on Quinyon, but that's how I'm framing that. So, but again, and think you're the San Francisco 49ers. You already lost Nick Bosa. You lose Fred Warner for the season. I mean, come on. You're really going to complain about injuries?
Right.
Somebody pointed out to me, which I did not know, Dallas in their high-flying offense was down 4 offensive linemen last week. 4 offensive linemen.
Yeah. Dak Prescott's playing amazing. Now, he always plays amazing at this time of the year, but still, he is playing amazing football. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And so there are so many teams that are just destroyed from an injury standpoint and are persevering better than the Philadelphia Eagles. So That's something that's a concern and points to the lack of depth, which is a big story this week because Isaiah Rodgers is having a good year with the Vikings, and the Eagles wanted to bring him back, but were unable to do it. And I'm always cautious when I say that because, look, the guy made whatever, $8 million, which is a lot.
Yeah, I think it was 15 mil 2-year deal. So yeah, 7.5 somewhere in there.
But if you really want him, you can't go to 9 million.
Right.
Come on. That to me is revisionist history based on how he's playing. And I didn't expect him to play that well. I don't think anybody did, but it's revisionist history to how well he's playing and conversely how poorly things have gone with Keely Ringo, I think.
Yeah. No doubt we're going to see what the solution is or how it all shakes out coming up this week, this Sunday. It's a 1:00 game again in Minnesota. So the Birds on the road here for Minnesota. We'll see how it shakes out. John, Kevin Patullo has a master's degree in the Nick Sirianni School of saying fucking nothing. What did you make of what he had to say yesterday?
Yeah, I see. I'm not going to go down. I think he's much better than Nick.
Do you?
Yeah, much better. But I think you have to be, you have to be willing to listen and not get sort of steeped up because he is open. And Nick is, I think, tries to perceive himself as open, but really isn't. So I think that's a strategy of Nick's. I don't think that's a strategy with Kevin. In fact, for instance, often you'll hear Nick say, "Hey, I respect your question, I respect your job, but I'm not going to give you that." You're never going to hear that from Kevin. He's going to answer the question. Now you might not like the answer, but I think he's, again, if you want to, and this is not the goal of the job, but for people that complain about him on the podium, yeah, I don't understand that, because compared to Shane and Brian and Kellen Moore, he's so much more open. Now that, of course, is like not the important part of his job. The important part of his job is to get this offense going. And the offense looks like the way it looks, which it looks like the way it looked last year without the running game.
Yeah.
And it looks like, yeah, which to me is the biggest issue. I mean, again, I say it all the time. Now there's some people who want to bench Jalen Hurts. So it seems to be some people are willing to have the conversation now. Most of this has to do with the quarterback. Ironically, I'm the one defending him. People think I hate him. Look, there's and Jeremy Fowler had an interview somewhere explaining again, because people shit on him because he does the coaches and executive polls, which rank the quarterbacks. Dude, anybody who had Jalen Hurts top 5 in quarterback, you don't know what you're watching. I've said it a million times. And I said, these decision makers around the league aren't playing the way the Eagles are playing. The Eagles don't want to play the way the Eagles are playing. The Eagles play the way they play to take advantage of the strengths of their quarterback. I don't know if people are willing to have that conversation yet, but they seem to be wavering to be more open-minded.
Well, you say you're defending Jalen on it, and I appreciate that. I mean, I'm definitely not ready to bench Jalen, but is it fair to say if the offensive line and the running game can't get going, even to the tune of what they were in 21, 22, or 23, is this offense just going to be what it's been? Is that what you're telling me, kind of?
Well, it's going to be different at some point again if you start playing the way, and I don't think they're going to play the way they did against the New York Giants. I've made that pretty clearly. But if things start to continue to go in a negative direction, the circumstance of the games will take care of that. You'll have to throw the football more. And it'll be a lot like the Giants game where, hey, you're moving the football, you're down 27-17. It looks like you're going to get right back in the game, and then bang, there's a bad ball. Jalen's description, not mine, but it was a bad ball. and you're going the other way and the game's over. You're going to have more of that rather than you're up 27-17 and you're just closing people out with the running game.
Right.
So, yeah, it's going to change, but I don't think people want that change. I think they might want that change, but that means you're playing from behind and those circumstances have changed. So, but a lot of the things that people want to blame on Kevin, and feel free. I mean, he's a big boy. He can handle it. The lateness to the ball not coming out on time, the lateness to the line of scrimmage. You got to start having those difficult conversations.
Yeah, well, the ball certainly not coming out on time. And that's why, I mean, look, I'm not going down the road of where you said people have gone with Tanner McKee and stuff, but if you can't run the ball this year, the very obvious fix, in my opinion, is, okay, you got to get Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown involved, two of the better receivers in pro football. And if the quarterback is struggling to do that consistently, I think that's where people go to Tanner. I don't think it's about Tanner. I think it's more about the skill set being able to manage the change in the offense.
Well, and if you want to blame the coaching staff, which I think most people do, I think what you should hammer on is that they've beaten into him this risk-averse philosophy. So he has sort of been, coached to be careful, to be Super Bowl security conscious, which is fine when you're playing from the lead. It's great.
Not fine
when you're not
doing coverages in the passing game. No.
Yeah. So that's where I would blame the coaching staff if you want to focus on that.
Got it. Good stuff, Johnny Mac. Good opening segment here today. Eagles getting ready to take on the Minnesota Vikings this weekend. Is it going to be Carson Wentz? I kind of saw something yesterday now. JJ was at practice. I thought it was going to be Wentz based on O'Connell.
It's going to be Carson. It's going to be Carson. Yeah.
So it's going to be Carson Wentz versus Jalen Hurts. That's pretty funny. So we'll see that.
Soft benching. They're trying to not destroy the competence of JJ McCarthy.
Yeah.
I'm of the belief, and look, I'm being hypocritical here because I often say one of the big problems in the NFL is people lack patience with young quarterbacks, but I've seen nothing from that kid that like usually you see with top 10 picks, usually you see the athlete like Caleb Williams. I see that why people go no. I mean, there's just so much playmaking ability, so much natural skill. He does a lot of dumb shit. But I see what people see. I don't see it at all with JJ McCarthy. I don't see it at all. To the point I've described it. They had Sam Darnold in that building. They had Daniel Jones in that building. And they said, nope, I want JJ McCarthy. Yeah. That will get, and I like Kwesi, know him personally, good dude. That will get him fired. That is just an egregious evaluation.
Do you think it's all on Kwesi, though? I mean, isn't that Kevin O'Connell's the quarterback whisperer?
Well, a little bit.
Hey, I want to go with JJ here.
But let's be honest, the business was more than anything else. Because I don't think if you, and again, I can't prove it, but if you gave Kevin O'Connell the true serum, I think he'd much rather have Sam Darnold. But the business, you drafted the kid where you drafted him. The whole plan is, well, you get a star rookie on a rookie contract. You can build up the rest of the roster, which they did do. It's a big time roster for the most part. Everybody's got holes, but for the most part, and they've had a ton of injuries. So that part of it, they just evaluated the quarterback wrong. They just did.
Yeah, well, we'll see what ends up happening there. Carson Wentz isn't playing too bad there. They've been pretty banged up, and he's still throwing the rock. Now, he's still Carson. He's still got some of his issues.
He's going to give you a chance to sack him.
Yep, and a
chance to be a big sack game. Yeah.
Well, who exactly will be sacked? Certainly not off the edge. We will.
When you hold the ball as long as Carson does, everybody could get on the party.
Yeah, that's true. Wait a sec, John. I think I got to push back on you on that. If I'm
I know the next gen stats. Bullshit.
Yeah, okay.
That top of the league right 90% of all. I'm talking about key situation. 3rd and 10, gotta have it.
Right. You're not talking about that.
He's gonna hold on. Now, Connell's gonna script up where the ball's out of his hands immediately, bubble screen adjust. All that affects that bullshit. That's a bullshit stat.
All right, yeah. Well, he is number 1 in the league. It's whether it's bullshit or not. He's 1 in the league. 2.5.
Part of the reason why is because they scheme it up that way because they know he's going to hold on to the freaking ball. So yeah, no. I mean, people here know better than anyone. Carson will hold on to the football, and you saw the way they lost to the Dublin game. Who did they play in the Dublin game?
I forget.
Pittsburgh. So they got the ball back, very difficult circumstances. They were down a field goal with like a minute left. They didn't have timeouts. It was like bang, bang, just they got 1 first down and then it was just sack, force. He's holding on to the ball. You got to get the ball downfield. And that's the frustrating part with veteran quarterbacks like that. I'm like, if it's 4th down and you see a 4th and 10, the thing that drives me crazy more than anything is if it's 4th and 10 and the game's on the line, throw the freaking football. Right. Give somebody a chance.
Yeah, right. Yeah. We got Mike Gill in the green room, John. Let's get to Mike Gill real quick, and I'm going to read the super chat, then we'll bring up Mike. Lockhart says, if what you're saying is true about playing to his strengths, why is there such a huge disparity between 22 and now in 2025?
Saquon Barkley. There was a huge disparity between why did you skip over 2024? Well, you skipped over 2024 because they won the Super Bowl. Look at just the raw passing numbers of Jalen Hurts. Look at the passing attempts between 2022 and 2024. Now they had a good running game, very good running game. And that's the point. You got to get back to that, to where you can get Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift-esque running games at this point. You'd say for that. But 2022, he threw it 460 times. And he missed 2 games. And last year he missed 2 games and he threw it where I just lost it. So it was 460, it was 361. So almost 100 passes less.
Yeah.
And if you want to go to 2023, when they had the bad defense and they were forced to pass, he threw it 538 times. And that went down to 361 last year. Now he played the extra 2 games in 2023, but that doesn't explain that disparity. Saquon Barkley does.
Yeah, makes sense. Good stuff there. Let's go to my man, Mike Gill, set to join us here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Mike Gill Show. Subscribe to his YouTube channel at Mike Gill Show and listen to him at 97.3 ESPN down the shore, 97.5 The Fanatic on the weekends. Mike, how are you on this Wednesday morning, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on with the Eagles this week. It's never a dull moment, right?
No, never a dull moment.
Yeah, and they get a surprise retirement.
Yeah,
always something with this team.
I said Monday. The Eagles play Thursday. The Phillies lost on Thursday, so Monday's kind of like, okay, what are we going to focus on? And then wham, Za'Darius Smith says, hey, you know what? I don't need this crap anymore.
Yeah.
Rob Thompson gets retained, so Monday ended up being a lot more eventful than I thought it was going to be. And then here we are midweek, getting ready for the Vikings, who, by the way, I would imagine if you were to hand pick a defense that you would not want to face when your offense is struggling, this is likely one of the 3 that you would say, I don't need a Brian Flores defense to try to get my offense going in the right direction. So this is going to be interesting.
Yeah, but I think that makes them pick up their game. One of the things, and Mike knows this better than most because he's been talking about it for years. I've been talking about it with him for years. This incessant need to translate what happened last week in the NFL to what's going to happen this week.
Definitely.
Like, the upsets in this league are crazy. Zander pointed out a good thing. Atlanta loses, they lose 30-0 to Carolina, and then they're beating Buffalo a couple weeks later, and they're playing, and now everybody's great. you can't translate. Look, it was a short week. There's no doubt about it. Some human nature plays into the way they played because they were probably like, well, the Giants are going to roll over. And the Giants didn't. They deserve credit for it. But to presume that's going to carry over to Minnesota, what Mike just said is 100% correct. If they're not on their P's and Q's against Brian Flores, they're going to look stupid. So guess what? They're going to be on their P's and Q's. They're going to be much more locked in. I guarantee it. Doesn't mean they're going to win the game.
Yeah.
But they're going to be much more locked in.
Well, the concerning thing when the Giant game, which you never can tell from week to week, is the Giants out-physicaled you on both lines. And that is not something that anybody had on the bingo card. Their offensive line stinks, and they took it to you. And you usually think your offensive line can win that battle. And we know the Eagles' offensive line is struggling, so they got whipped up front. So the physicality was the alarming thing, I thought, in the Giant game. The fact that the Giants just physically whipped you, that was the eye-opener. Now, does it carry over from week to week? Not necessarily. But the one thing that the Vikings – their defense is going to throw confusing looks at you. They are going to certainly change things up. And the Eagles offense, which has been a struggle bus right now, this is certainly not the defense, if they come to play, that you want to get right against.
No doubt. Mike, how do you evaluate the quarterback conversation? Obviously, me and John were talking about, there's a lot of conversation in that regard. Jalen is a specific type of player, which is okay. I mean, he's been very successful here in Philadelphia. But without that run game, Mike, they struggle. How do you see it going where do you see it going from here? And how do you evaluate the quarterback so far through the first 6 weeks?
Well, listen, in the summer when all the lists come out, I've never been the guy fighting for Jalen Hurts to be higher on any list. He doesn't belong higher on lists because he happens to win games. That doesn't mean his skill set is better than some of these other quarterbacks. These lists are all based on skill, arm strength, stats. This guy's a 4,500-yard passer. Jalen's not that guy. So when times are tough, this is when he is open to criticism. And this is when people look at him and say, well, you're supposed to be one of these top 5 guys. No, he's not supposed to be one of these top 5 guys. So those people that make the list, they're generally right. He's somewhere in the middle of the pack skill set wise. The question is, when times are tough, can you turn to him? This has become the NFL. John and I kind of talked a little bit about this on Monday on my show. You have a quarterback that you want to be the franchise quarterback. So you see a glimmer, and then you give him more, and then he shows he can't do it. So then you have to reel him back in. And the Eagles have said, we're just not giving you more. We're just not going to do it. We're just going to make you be who you are, even though you have all these toys to play with. These other teams, they have Bo Nix, and then Nix looks good for 2 weeks, and then they give him a little bit more, and then he turns into Bo Nix. So the Eagles have been very cautious by not letting Jalen get more. Right now, though, the question is, do the Eagles need more from him? Because this run game is an absolute disaster because, quite frankly, the offensive line's a mess. And I know that people are talking about Landon Dickerson maybe staying out another week to get himself healthy after the bye. They need Landon Dickerson. Brett Toth cannot play left guard at this level. He just can't do it. He's getting whipped. He got whipped last week. Mailata had an awful game last week, and I think Mailata not having his partner next to him is now affecting him a little bit. So when you don't have those 5 guys, and they had all 5 last year, virtually the entire season, outside of Mailata missing about 4 games, and it shows you how important that position is in this league. We see it all the time. All these teams have good skill guys. Don't have the guys up front doing their job, as we're seeing right now with the Eagles. It affects Saquon. It affects AJ. It affects Devontae. And it affects the quarterback. So this offensive line is the reason why all the play is struggling. Now, are there plays that Jalen can make? Absolutely. We see those plays. You're not going to hit on 100% of them, but if you're getting them, you've got to make sure you hit on at least 1 or 2 of them. You can't miss all of them. And he is not making that big play that he generally has made in the past.
Yeah, I feel so many people make football more complicated than it is. And I've been saying for probably 20 years. And because people that know the game better than me have told me, if you can't, how many times have you heard me say this, Mike? If you can't block people, you can't play offense in this league. If you
No,
look at,
we talk about a lot, John, these great receivers who don't win anything. Well, because their offensive lines get the quarterback killed, right? I mean, Joe Burrow's the one guy who took a team to a Super Bowl with an awful offensive line. That's how good Joe Burrow is, which is why I was joking on Monday when Brian Callahan got fired. It was, hey, maybe you should just bring him in here and see if he has a couple pass plays that he can add to this offense just to add a little bit, because, I know he wasn't the play caller in Cincinnati, but I'm sure he has a couple pass plays that maybe worked for Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd when he was there, just to add something to their route trees, which are so elementary that it's, I'm sure everybody out there
saw elementary route trees, though, Mike, they're so consistent. The only logical conclusion is that that's where the quarterback likes to throw the ball. I mean, I've done one dude sending me these route trees from George Pickens versus Devontae Smith. All of Devontae's are outside the numbers, right to the sideline. And George Pickens's are all over the field. Devontae's are that every week. Do we really think that Kevin Patullo, who's been a pass game coordinator in the NFL for how long, and Nick Sirianni, who managed the Phillip Rivers offense in Indianapolis, they can't give him any routes over the middle? The only logical conclusion there is this is what the offense thrives on, or what they want to do.
I'm beaming with pride with Zander. I'm to see it click. I mean, what you said, he's been doing this for a long freaking time. Do people really think the issue is the coaches? Look at Kellen Moore's offense pre-Philadelphia, even the first 4 weeks in Philadelphia when they were trying to change things to what it became. Do people really think it's the offensive coaches? It is mind-boggling to me. You've had 4 different guys. It all ends in the same place.
Yeah, even with everybody I'm sure saw the Baldy breakdown of them running the same play on 3 straight third downs. I said, that's great to say they're running the same play. And all 3 of them third downs, guys were wide open.
Yeah,
there was a guy open,
and the ball's not coming out. That's what I said.
Every single one of them, they could run the same play. And they're open every time. There was a guy wide open, where I'm not looking at the fact that they're running the same exact play. I'm looking at he missed a guy on all 3 of them. That's the more alarming thing to me. Yeah. Run the same play. We talk about all the time.
Hey,
you have a play that works, run it again.
15 times, man.
And I'm sure the offensive play caller's saying, I'm calling this play on third down. It's working. You are not getting the ball to the guy on time, because what I'm seeing is there's a guy wide open, and all 3 of those Baldy plays, the guy's wide open. I don't know if you can bring that up on the screen, but I mean, you look at that play, all 3 of those plays, they're the exact 3 plays. Now, guys are in different spots. It's not the same exact play. It's the same routes, just different guys running them. But all 3 of the plays, there's guys wide open.
Ball's not coming out, man.
Ball's not coming out. And, last year after the Carolina game, this was the conversation. And you go down like, hey, if you put any other quarterback in this same exact offense with these weapons, what's the result? And then it goes back to, well, this isn't what they want to be. They want to run the ball. Well, they can't run the ball right now. So now you got a real conundrum. You can't run the ball, and you have a problem delivering the football on time to the guys who are open.
So is the only way for this offense to be successful then, if you have the best offensive line in football? I mean, the offensive line hasn't been what we're used to, but as John has pointed out extensively on the show, they're not. Look around the league, man. I mean, the offensive lines around the league are awful.
Awful. And I've said this team became the team that we know when they realized who the true star of this team was. The offensive line. The offensive line is what has been the biggest star of this team. And when they realize that, that's when this team has gone on this unbelievable run. And now that the biggest star they have is turning into a team that's breaking down a little bit. Everybody gets older. Everybody gets beaten up. Things happen. Becton's gone. Obviously, Juergens is beat up. Dickerson's beat up. So your biggest star is now hurt, and it's crumbling a little bit. You know, A.J. Brown is awesome, but what is Nick Sirianni's famous quote? You can't be great without the greatness of others. Guess what? Yeah. Without the greatness of that offensive line, you can't be as great as you know, the highest level of your greatness relies on that offensive line. It all comes back to that line being busted. But when this team finally realized in 2021 that the biggest star we have is that offensive line, it turned into the Eagles that we now know over this run. A Super Bowl appearance, a 10-1 start, a Super Bowl championship, and now here we are where that line can't hold up their end of the bargain.
I mean, and even when you go to the top of the food chain, and I constantly point out, Tom Brady lost 3 Super Bowls, but he lost, except the one against the Eagles, which was a shootout. The New York Giants beat him twice. How? Destroyed
they
the
beat him up front
on the pass rush. Yep. Patrick Mahomes, 2 of his worst games, 3 of, you know, Tampa Bay, Philadelphia in the Super Bowl, they could not block the front either game. Kansas City could not block the front. You're talking at the highest level of Hall of Famer, not only Hall of Famers, the highest level of Hall of Famers at the position. Even they can't perform to the point of, if you can't block people, you can't play offense, even with the top of the food chain at quarterback. And nobody realizes it. Well, far too people realize it. You just woke up.
I feel like the pass blocking of the offensive line has been fine. It's more the run blocking, I think, where they're struggling right now. And it doesn't look like they're getting any push off the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, I was just using an extreme example.
I was just more going back to the Eagles on it, because they look like they're holding up in the pass game. I mean, Jalen did have 4 or 5 seconds to throw in a lot of those plays.
Well, Jordan and Lane are playing to their standard for the most part. You know, it doesn't look quite as good when Brett Toth is in there, because you had some stunt problems, some game problems with, you know, you don't have that continuity. Cam is dealing with the injury. And Tyler Steen, by the way, I think has been above average. The crazy part is I still think the Eagles' offensive line is top 10 in the league, because there's so many bad offensive lines. But compared to what it was last year, when it was literally one of the best offensive lines ever. So that same thing when I'm talking about the quarterbacks, that was top of the food chain ever. Now you're just normal good. And you see all the struggles it creates. But there's a whole conflation of things, as Kevin will talk about, as Nick will talk about. But to me, if they don't get this running game going, it's going to be a problem, because then you got to throw it more. And the more this team throws it, the uglier it's going to get. Especially if you're in an obvious passing situation.
That's just a crazy thing to try to like think about when you have the weapons that you have and what you have invested in then, and that you're saying, like, you know, I'm not disagreeing with you. The fact that you're saying if you have to throw the ball, you're in trouble with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, and Jahan Dotson, another guy who was a first-round pick who I know he hasn't been what you would hope. Like when you draft a guy in the first round, you're hoping he's a number 1 wide receiver. But if he's your third guy, that's not the worst situation to be in. And this is what you're talking about. It's that if you have to throw the ball to those guys, is that more quarterback related, or because the offensive line isn't holding up their end of the bargain?
It's Mike. It's ridiculous. They let everybody walk. They took Vic Fangio's number 1 defense and blew it to smithereens because they're paying the offense. And if the offense has one offensive lineman, or the offensive line isn't number 1 overall in football, or they can't run to the tune of 2,000 yards, we can't move the ball. We're the 30th ranked offense in pro football, and they're the highest paid offense in pro football. That's one of the worst ROIs you can calculate. Number 1 paid, 30th ranked. Come on, man. That's got to get better. I don't get how people don't see that that's a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Well, I would hope people would see it's a problem. And if you don't see it's a problem, obviously you're just carrying water for your favorite team. But my only point, pretty consistently, it was the same last year. Nobody recognized it because of the running game,
right?
Passing game, I'm talking about. You know, it's the same thing last year. And everybody was upset when we talked about it. The Carolina game, the Baltimore game. You know, people forget Green Bay. They threw for 130 yards in the playoffs against Green Bay.
Realistically, it's been the same thing the entire Hurts era. I mean, their offense is just average. I mean, they have explosive games, but not consistently. And no one's consistent. But I said, you know, what number I threw out a couple of weeks ago, 35 points a game. Okay, you're not scoring 35 points a game, but this offense should consistently be able to score 28 with what they have. And this offense has been consistently just an average offense. Like, yes, they have explosive games that changes the dynamics of all their things, but ultimately, you don't watch this team. I have this debate with my buddy all the time. He texts me about how boring the Eagles are to watch. Just think about that. You got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, the best offensive line in football, a really good tight end. And you're talking about a team that's boring to watch. And they are their offense is a grind to watch sometimes. Their best play is the tush push. Basically, is the only play that they consistently can run effectively. But it's been like this really since 2021. They've been a boring offense with explosive big plays every now and then. Last year, the explosive big plays were from Saquon Barkley. In years past, the explosive big plays, let's be honest, Miles Sanders had a lot of big runs here. You talked about it, John, on my show. How many yards per carry Miles Sanders got you? It wasn't like you were struggling to run the ball. You just last year had a toy that you felt like playing with more than you have in the past. If you played with Miles Sanders as much as you did Saquon Barkley, he might have had 1,800 yards in this offense. You just decided to make Saquon a bigger figure in this offense. But it really could have been Miles Sanders running for, I don't want to say 2,000 yards. I'll give Saquon some benefit that he could add a couple hundred yards just because he's great. But it wasn't like they were struggling in that department. They've never struggled to run the ball, which is why when they
were great
Saquon,
with DeAndre Swift.
Right, which is why when they signed Saquon Barkley is he better get like 1,800 total yards. Now he surpassed my number, but I said to pay him what you paid him for what you were getting, and now you're paying this guy, he better smash those guys. And he did. So kudos to him. I also questioned giving him the extension. I thought that was a bad decision, other than doing it in a sign of good faith of, hey, you had a great year, so we're going to pay you for that year. But they had no reason to extend him because now you're seeing the problem is now he's not the weapon that you thought he was, not because he stinks, is because teams are now saying, you're not going to use that weapon that you just paid some more money. We're not going to let you.
All right, I'm going to bring something up, and people are not going to like it. But, Mike, you brought up Jahan Dotson, and I'm not calling for this. I'm simply looking at the difference in skill sets and why the receivers are so damn frustrated. Everybody loves getting mad at A.J. Brown. You brought up Jahan Dotson as a wide receiver 3. There was one game last year where you had a different style of quarterback in for Jahan Dotson. It was week 18. It was a meaningless game. I get it. You're playing the shitty New York Giants. You can't take too much of it. Jahan Dotson had 7 receptions for 94 yards. Dallas Goedert played the first quarter. He had 4 catches for 55 yards. Anaya Smith had
By the way, on that Goedert.
Ronnie Wilson 3 catches. Calcaterra 2 catches. Kenny Gainwell 2 catches. All these guys got 4+ targets.
On the Goedert thing, for the people who complain, they run the same play every time. That Goedert game in against the Giants, they ran the same tight end cross.
Yep.
The entire half. They ran the same play for Tanner McKee the entire first half of that Giant.
That was the most simplified offense that game.
Yes.
I'm just pointing out.
Eagles.
Like, this is why, though, people say this. I don't think it's because of Tanner McKee. It's if this quarterback, when our offensive line isn't perfect or we can't run the ball to the level we have, if you can't get A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith involved, what are we doing? Seriously, I mean, you're telling me, is someone going to honestly tell me, play in and play out, that A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith are not getting open? Seriously? Sorry, I'm not buying that. There's no way I am buying that. And if you don't have a perfect O-line and a perfect run game, you can't move the football? I mean, that just seems insane to me. But I get it. The conversation's a tough one, and people don't want to hear all that. But I don't know. 27-41, McKee was that game. They threw 41 passes. I mean,
yeah, that was really, if you watch that game, if you watch the guy, they were very, and in fact, he was very hot early, and then as they figured out, hey, they're going to run the same plays all game, then
Right.
it got worse as it progressed. And you know, they didn't want to show anything. It was a meaningless game, so that was more like a preseason environment, which is why people are hyped up to begin with Tanner McKee. Not that, look. If he's forced to play, the offense is going to look a lot different, and there's a lot of things people are going to like, and I think it would rejuvenate the coaching staff, to be honest, because they'd like to play more 11 personnel and drop back and do some different things, and it would rejuvenate a lot of people, but there also be a lot more mistakes. A lot more issues.
That's the thing. A lot of teams around the league are running the offense that they want to run. They don't have the quarterback to do it. And that's why they're stuck in the middle, is because the quarterback play is so inconsistent. The offensive line play is so bad. So your offense might be more creative, but you can't run it to the level you want to because the quarterbacks are inconsistent. The offensive line stink. So your offense is more creative than the Eagles. The Eagles are saying, we have more creativity in us. We just don't want to use it because we don't think we don't want to make mistakes. You can have your offense that looks good one week, then the next week it doesn't, then the next week it doesn't, then the next week it does. That the Eagles are saying, we're not making mistakes. We're fine in this lane right here. And
that's exactly, to Mike's point, that's exactly what you would have. You might have a 300 passing week and 4 touchdowns, and everybody's going to lose their mind with Tanner McKee. And then the next week, it might be 4 interceptions. Right. You know, that's the way of sort of what you see around the NFL.
How many games this year? Now, the flip side would be that maybe McKee got the ball out faster and they made a play. But how many games this year did the Eagles need Hurts to run for a first down to keep a drive going?
Tanner McKee is. How many of them were because he missed the guy, though? Or he didn't get the ball out on time.
That's the flip side of it. The flip side is maybe he had to do that because he missed a guy. It is chicken or the egg in this situation.
Well, you know, Mike, let me ask you a question. And, John, you give me this a lot. And I don't know if it's more because of the quarterback or what you believe about the overall offense. Are the Philadelphia Eagles built to be able to pass the football? Leave Jalen aside for a second. Because I don't know if there's a team in football that's built to pass the ball better than the Eagles. I legitimately believe that.
Well, I can't. I don't think you can leave Jalen Hurts aside. I mean,
I'm just saying, we say we're not built.
Well, if you put this offense in any other town other than Philadelphia with whoever's playing quarterback, that team is now leaning towards throwing the football a majority of the time. That's the game today, and they have the talent to do it. If you put this team in Cincinnati and take Jamar Chase and T. Higgins out, they're going to run the same offense. If you put this team in Miami with Tua, who's not great, but they're still going to say, Tua, you now have these 2 guys. We're going to lean on those 2 guys. If you put this offense,
if you put Tanner McKee in this offense, it changes. I've already said that it changes overnight.
So if the better margin to win, though, in the NFL is passing the football, as Jeffrey Lurie has won it,
the Eagles would say, wait a second, we won the Super Bowl. You want us to act like everybody else?
Well, now the offensive line doesn't look good and they're ranked 30th overall.
That is true. But it's funny. We want to try to compare the Eagles to everybody else, and everybody else is trying to be the Eagles. They won the Super Bowl.
That I disagree with. Because one of the things is...
Well, no, they're not trying to be the Eagles in terms of what they do. They're trying to be the best team in the league. The problem is the Eagles did it in a way that nobody else can duplicate because nobody else has the discipline to focus on running the ball and not making mistakes. They're trying to be explosive. And everything's about explosive, X plays, big plays. And the Eagles are saying, we can get them by here. And our big plays are going to be a 70-yard run, a 50-yard run. Like, that's the way that other teams can't get in the mindset of being disciplined is a hard thing to do. And the Eagles being disciplined is what won them the Super Bowl.
That's true. A small margin of error.
This is what I don't understand then. If this is what they want to do, and this is, Mike, as you point out, they did win a Super Bowl. Why do we spend 50 to 50? Well, 50, leave Jalen out. 32 on Devontae or AJ, 25 on Devontae, that's 57. 10 on Dallas Goedert, 67. I mean, you got $67 million in pass catchers. Give me an I formation with a fullback and a blocking tight end if all you want to do is run the fucking football.
Well,
I don't understand.
I would say, like in the past, some of the reasons why you're able to run the ball well is because you can't, some of these guys have to account for A.J. Brown. So that takes a safety and kind of slides it in his direction. Or Devon, like I can't just leave these guys on one-on-ones because they're going to roast me. So, this goes back to like A.J. and the whole thing of like, I didn't feel like I contributed. Well, you contributed by basically standing there. It's like Ohtani keeps getting walked, even though he hasn't done a damn thing. It's the possibility that Ohtani could hit one out at any moment in time. I have to account for that. A.J. Brown's on the field. I have to account for him. So I have to now put more attention or eyes or something has to be looking in his direction.
Well, he's a $32 million decoy. That's what I mean. That's what.
But hey, sometimes you have the luxury. The Dodgers have $35 million invested into bullpen pieces who never pitch. Right?
Well, all right, I got a pushback though, because I agree with you. Sometimes you have the luxury, but we didn't. We let the number one defense in football walk this offseason because we couldn't pay them. Why can't we pay them? Because we're paying all this money on offense. So now if you're built to only run the ball and the defense is going to lead you to Super Bowls, why are we letting the defense walk out the door? Vic Fangio shows up, Mike, year one, and gives us the greatest defense we maybe have ever seen. And then they take a blowtorch to it, and now he's left to pick up the pieces.
Hey, listen, well, a lot of that is they trust their drafting, right? Which is what you should do. They invested in the offense and said, we're going to draft on defense to allow these guys to walk because we trust that the next guy is going to come in, and it hasn't worked so far. You had Josh Sweat, who's having a good year in Arizona, by the way, and you drafted Jalen Hunt. Now, I don't know that they thought Jalen Hunt was going to be ready to be the guy right now, but he was the guy that was drafted in the third round. Josh Sweat was a fourth round pick. So you're supplanting him with a guy that you maybe valued more when you drafted him. You drafted Milton Williams in the third. You've now got Morrow taking that spot. So they did invest in their offense because they decided to invest in the draft on the defense to replace those guys. And you have to trust that you're going to hit on these guys in the draft. You don't go into it by saying, man, I really suck at this. So you have to hope that you done your homework and that those guys can do the job.
I talk about that a lot. That's circumstance, paying guys. They're the offensive guys are the entrenched guys on their second and third contract. Like I think a lot of fans don't. They can't pay Jalen Carter yet. They can't pay Quinyon Mitchell yet. They can't pay Cooper DeJean yet. They have to wait till after their third season. They will get paid.
But we did.
They will get paid. So again, Howie's job is about more than this immediate moment. He's got to think about years to come and all that kind of stuff. And if you pay Milton Williams what Milton Williams got on the open market, well, how do you pay Jalen Carter? How do you pay Josh Sweat? How do you pay if these guys develop Nolan Smith and Jalen Hunt, which jury is out on both because of injuries with Nolan, because of playing. Certainly Jalen Hunt doesn't look like a no doubt about it guy, foundational guy, although he's still got an upside. But you got to make those difficult decisions. And sometimes you get those evaluations wrong. I just talked about it with J.J. McCarthy at a bigger high profile position. Sometimes you just flat out get them wrong. But by the time you're in theory going to be paying Nolan Smith and maybe even Jalen Hunt, Josh is going to be 2-3 years older. So you got to make these difficult decisions. And I always talk about that demarcation line. Some guys are above it. Some guys are below it. They might get that wrong, but you can't pay them all. That's the.
Oh, yeah. You definitely can't pay them all, which is why I said, though, they didn't pay him because they're paying the offense, and it's 30th overall is not cutting it. If this team's going to win, with the way they're set up this year, the only way to do it is to get the most out of that offense. And clearly they're not.
If 10 weeks from now you're talking about an offense that just can't get out of its own way, I think you can certainly say 6 weeks. You would say, well, that's a good enough sample size. They are 4-2. I know the last 2 weeks have been pretty dreadful, and I'm not sitting here saying, they're going to snap out of this. It doesn't appear that that's the case. However, I do think they should get some benefit of the doubt that they had a mini bye. They have another bye coming up. Let's see what this team looks like coming out of the bye. And there's still this clunkiness.
You know what this shapes up to me as a week where Jalen hears some of this noise and he has one of his big games. And everybody's like, see, I told you. And then they're going to conflate that till it should happen the week after and the week after and the week after.
It almost feels that they have so much faith and confidence that they have the games in their back pocket that they can pull them out whenever they want. And it's like the fans yearn for it every week to see this explosive offense. And they're only like, we know we can do it when it's almost like a team that flips the switch in the playoffs. Like, we kind of sleptwalk through the regular season, but once we get to the playoffs, you're going to see the real team. And it's like the Eagles are just like, we're going to hold. Nick Sirianni is the ultimate, like, I'm not giving the other team anything. And it's almost like they're holding their cards so close to their vest to get through the regular season, or that 1 week where they're like, well, we might sprinkle in a game where we can delight you for 1 week. Here you go, because they trust that they have the personnel that can do it whenever they need it.
Well, there's definitely a lot of hubris with this team. I talk about it all the time. They are very of the belief that they're just going to out-talent people, that the roster is too big to bail, to use a financial comparison, too talented to bail in this instance, but they're not as talented as they were last year. And I think you're right in the regular season, Mike, because I think you're going to have these games, and it might even start this week where Jalen will go up to the podium post-game. Is that what you wanted to see? One of those backhanded things? And then people are going to say, hey, we expect that moving forward, and it's not going to be. They're not going to be, I say this all the time, Mike, they are not going to be a high-volume passing offense, period.
Yeah, and as time goes on, you wonder how much that just keeps wearing on your AJs, your Devontaes, and everybody. Like, all things in sports used to be, I'm watching a video this morning that popped up on my feed of Chris Chambliss hitting the home run in the 76 World Series.
Great
to
moment.
Walk it off. And the fans are on the field. He can't even circle the bases. Like moments like that. I'm like, can you imagine if that actually happened today? The guy couldn't get around the bases. But you talk about that is that those teams stayed together for decades, right? That level of that team would stay together for a decade trying to win games. Now, after like 3 years, these guys are like, I want to go to the next challenge. I want to go someplace else. All the fans are like, I want to see a new team. I'm done with this team. The Phillies could easily run it back, but everyone's like, I'm tired of this team. Well, 30 years ago, you would say, I want to see this team go on a 10-year run and see what they can do. Now, if you don't get it done in 2 seasons, you're out. We're giving this team 6 weeks, and we're like, we're done. We're out of this thing.
No, it's because it looks like there's cracks in the foundation. If the foundation of the team, is
right.
Run the ball, offensive line. Real quick, though, Mike. Do you think this offensive line is getting healthier? I mean, we've had 4 years of playing this way. Landon Dickerson's he's now been multiple surgeries. He's injured. Cam Jurgens coming off a back surgery. Lane Johnson isn't getting any younger. He might be closer to retirement than we ever thought he would be at this point. Are we expecting the offensive line to return to what they were in 2020? Well,
I think that's a fair
pointed
question.
Out, a GM told him, this might be one of the greatest offensive lines I've ever seen.
Yeah. No, I think it's a fair question of, as I said before, when the Eagles realized the star of this team was the offensive line, that's when they flourished. How many more great years does that star have left in them? The problem with the offensive line being the star is you need 5 guys to make them the star, not one, all 5. And that is a fair assessment is, can they rely on this offensive line to be the star of the team anymore? And if they can't, what is the result of this offense? You're seeing it right now. So yes, your question of how can they get healthier? Landon Dickerson's beat up. He was drafted beat up. Now he gave you really good years. I don't want to say the guy's going to be Ron Salt all of a sudden, but I would imagine that he's not going to be 100% for at any point this year.
By the way, he's already been worth it, even if he doesn't.
Agreed, John.
Yeah,
he's already been worth it.
Absolutely.
Because you're right. They took a chance on him because of his guy would have been a first-round pick easily, and he fell to the second round.
So their offensive line is definitely a question of whether or not they can be a 5-man working tandem. You do have a bye week coming up still, and that would be the big thing. I think after the bye week to see if they're still very clunky and that this offensive line is still a problem. If that's the case, I would imagine the back end of this schedule is going to be very difficult to navigate.
At Mike Gill Show, make sure you follow Mike on the X platform. Subscribe to his YouTube channel as well at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him, 97.3, the Sports Bash, every day, 2 to 6, down the shore. You guys got whacked down the shore with this nor'easter. Hope everybody's okay down there.
The beaches are beat up. Don't come down.
Don't come down. Don't come down. Well, it's getting cooler, so you're going to have a break.
No, they're not going to have them fixed by next summer, so it's not even worth coming down.
Stop vacationing here. It's classic. Yeah. All right, Mike. Good stuff. Good conversation. I don't know, man. I don't want to.
Here's where it's going. Here's where it's going. They're going to make the playoffs because they are too talented to fail, so to speak. They're going to
lose to the Giants. You lose to the Giants, John. I'll tell you, in 2023, there was a lot of games on that schedule, even when they were playing like crap. Like, they got the Cardinals. They got
yeah.
And they lost those games. That Giants team, they got a little life, a little energy with the quarterback and Scadaboo. But that team,
that's a bad team.
Stinks. They stink. And
I started the show. That is a bad loss. I am not sugarcoating that at all. But they are going to rebound. They're going to make the playoffs. Then they're going to lose. I don't know if they're going to lose in the wild card weekend, divisional round. They're going to lose. And when they do, there's going to be some real conversations that need to be had in the offseason.
Yeah. And by the way, now we're relying on a trade to fix the edge. And I'm a Howie Roseman guy too, believe me. But his trade record since the Super Bowl is not good. Okay. He traded 2 picks for Tank Bigsby.
What about Tank?
Tank
Bigsby.
Outside of the Fred Johnson trade, I don't think he made a single good trade. And now we're looking at him to repair the edge because they let everybody walk again because they're paying all the offense. And here we are back shopping on the market in week 6, Mike. Let's hope Howie
Fred Johnson and Fred helped you win a game this year, right?
I think Fred was a good trade.
Yeah,
he traded for Fred Johnson and Fred helped kind of secure a win this year.
I'm going with the Fred trade, but can you find any others?
No. Listen, it's hard to make trades.
John Mechie.
It's hard to make trades.
How about Thomas
in the
Booker
NFL?
Corey and Bennett.
Yeah, it's hard to make trades in the. It's hard to make trades in the NFL.
Great, man.
It's hard to make trades in the NFL of any substance. They're going to help you in the moment.
No, it's not.
What trade has ever happened in the middle of an NFL season that impacted the playoffs or anything? I mean, I know trades were not as glamorous in the NFL. They're starting to become a little bit more. But if you're looking to make a trade, like outside of getting like Trey Hendrickson, who, by the way, has back problems now, all these guys who held out, McLaurin, his quad problem, he hasn't been on the field. Hendrickson, he's got back problems. He can't get on the field. Those guys scare me. The Hendrickson thing's interesting because he has a 1-year deal. Do you want to just say, hey, I'll pay you the rest of the year? What's that?
Yeah, you could just move on. But
exactly. You bring him in for half the year. He's getting paid $29 million this year. So whatever that prorate it would be, you could do that and then let him walk. It's just what would you have to give up to get, to do that? So he would be, I guess, intriguing. But the fact that he got this back problem, he can't get through these games, that's a problem.
Yeah.
But I will say, they told us they had an edge problem by bringing Za'Darius in. And now that Za'Darius is out, they better fix that problem yet again.
It's even worse, remember, because Nolan's hurt too. Oh, gosh. Mike, good conversation, my friend. It always is every single Wednesday. We appreciate you joining in. We'll talk to you again next week. Thank you, brother.
See you.
Thanks, Mike.
Follow Mike, guys. Follow Mike at Mike Gill Show. Go subscribe to his YouTube channel at Mike Gill Show. Listen to him at 97.3 ESPN down the shore. Johnny Mac, some good conversation today, but the Eagles are Eagles are in a weird spot, John. They are. I mean, I do think you're right that they're going to bounce back, but if the assumption that that we have to play the way we have in recent years, I just think that's harder than people think, man. This offensive line is beat up. You talked about it all year, or Saquon Barkley, all those touches. We forgot to factor in that was hard on the offensive line. I mean, run blocking is a lot.
What I would say this: what's harder to completely shift your mentality in the middle of an NFL season, to completely shift your offense to a high-flying passing attack, or get better at what you've been practicing since the spring?
Well, obviously they're not going to shift now, John. I
That's
get
my
you. I'm
point.
with you on that, but
I mean, this is what they built this team for, to play like the way they're playing. They're just not doing it effectively. So they have to do it effectively. Now, when it ends, I think that they're going to have difficult conversations that are about players that people don't want to hear they're going to be about. Starting with the two most high-profile players on this team. Both of them. And I'm talking about Jalen Hurts, and I'm talking about Saquon Barkley. Difficult conversations. Then you get to A.J. Brown. There's a lot of them. But those are the top two because of the impact on the game and how much Saquon touches it. Look, if you have a running back who finishes a season at 3.4 yards per carry, you're going to bring him back and run it back? The quarterback, if you want to change and play 11 personnel and be like everybody else, are you going to bring back Jalen Hurts? Or are you going to trade him?
Well,
they're not going to cut him, obviously.
Obviously. But I mean, look, this is the tough conversation, but it's fair because it's like, all right, if this is the way that Jalen thrives, it really doesn't make sense, right? Why we pay those receivers?
If you can convince, because there's a lot of dumb teams out there that will boil it down. Like, there's some owners dumber than the average fan. And they'll just look at it the way the average, he won the Super Bowl, so he's the best quarterback in football. Let's bring that guy in. You can pilfer them for 2 first-round picks and this and that. It's time to enter that realm if they can't figure it out. That's way down the road. Right. But if it ends ugly this season, it's time to enter that realm of discussion. Where then you can go about fire the coach and fire this guy and fire that guy and keep blaming the coaching staff and try to do it with somebody else who can build around the same skill set.
It's just, the comment that you always said though, John, where the margin is smaller, it applies to more than just on the field too. I mean, this is what you're looking at. You have a little bit of a banged up offensive line and your offense is really struggling to move the football. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith are whispering to each other like this over on the sidelines. I mean, they're not happy, and it makes sense why they're not happy. Those guys are capable of dominating football games, and they're not being asked to. They're not being utilized in that way. I know everybody likes to blame Patullo, but I don't think
in the whispers, I don't know what they are, but I think it has something to do with the ball ain't fucking coming out.
Yep. Oh, man, we got a lot to talk about in the city of brotherly love.
And by the way, he's going to show up and have a big fucking game.
This weekend?
Much cursing this morning, yeah. And then he's going to sit on that podium and say, is that what you wanted? And then people are going to be fired up again, and then it's going to go right back to what it was. Inconsistent.
How do they fix it this way?
How do they
fix it to play this style without going to the trade people conversation?
They have to fix the running game. I mean, and again, I'm not talking about last year. You got to get to a Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift level. Right now, they're a bad running team, which I never thought we'd be having that conversation. I never thought in a million years we'd be having that conversation. I thought maybe it would revert back to the Miles DeAndre level, 1,500 yards, 5 yards a carry, because Saquon's going to get a little bit more. And they've just been a disaster. Like, I don't know how they fix it if they don't fix the running game.
Yeah, right. Especially with this style. I mean, if this is what the style is, and this is what everybody says we got to live with, then they better keep the best O-line in football.
Well, you don't have to live with it. I'm not saying. I'm just, and this is mainly focused on. I mean, the Eagles have made their decision. Again,
What I mean, so it's like you got to live in reality at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, you can dream about shit all you want.
Yeah. But to those who ignored the problems, well, here they are again.
Let's go.
You don't have the crutch that eliminated that problem,
right.
essentially.
Let's go to some supers here. Justo says, why can't Fred Johnson play guard if Becton did? A thought.
Well, I mean, a lot of reasons, but mainly because he's not nearly as good as McKee. Not nearly as strong. Yeah, I don't think that would work out well. But he's not the short synopsis. He's not as good a player as McKee back then.
Pumper says, yeah, I can't blame Vic, crew. They're getting Chip Kelly by the $250 million offense. Tanner has the McKee to unlock this offense, but y'all care about optics.
Pumper. Yeah, I don't give a rat's ass about optics. I'm the one who's been telling people that this passing offense is limited because of the way they play. And I've been saying it for a very, very long time. As far as optics, I point out to, there's a mentality outside that, well, they're paying the offense, and Zander said it. They're paying the offense, and I point out every time it's circumstance. It's circumstance that's changing. It's changing when I have to pay Jalen Carter, when I have to pay Quinion, when I have to pay, and they will pay those guys. It's changing, and then people are going to be upset because they're going to have Grant Calcaterra type starting at tight end, or they're going to have Fred Johnson starting at right tackle type. When Lane retires, and they're going to be upset about that. But that's just the reality of the NFL, and it keeps shifting because you got to pay your good players. And the Eagles fans should thank themselves that there's a lot of teams that complain about paying their good players, like Cincinnati and Trey Hendrickson, somebody like that. Well, we can pay Jamar Chase, we can't pay you. They have to pay the quarterback. We can't pay this guy. The Eagles pay most of their guys. And again, they have so many good players. Then you start to say, would it be nice to have Milton Williams? Of course. Would it be nice to have Josh Sweat? Of course.
Josh is glaring to me more because it's like, look at the edge right now, Look at the.
Well, you'd like to have everybody back.
Yeah, I get it. And you can't live in that world. But I'm just saying the reason we haven't paid him is because everything's on the offense. And it's good for 30th in the NFL.
That's not the reason they didn't pay them. The reason they didn't pay them is because roster building is about more than the immediacy of the moment.
Yeah, I understand.
So you have to think it out 2-3 years off in advance, and who's going to get paid over that time frame, or who you want to pay. Now, ultimately, it comes down to evaluation. And if you screw up the evaluation and Jalen Hunt or Nolan Smith don't turn into the players you perceive them to being, well, that's where you fuck yourself. And I'm sorry for cursing so much this morning, but that's where you screw yourself, is that if you miss evaluations, ultimately everything's about evaluation in the NFL. You either get it right with a player or get it wrong with the player. But when the Eagles do get it right with a player, they're willing to pay that player. And generally they do it proactively. Like Mike just pointed out, they didn't have to give Saquon an extension.
Yeah.
They were proactive. AJ They had a year and a half to work with AJ when they gave him his last extension. Devontae, they did it early. They'll do it early with Jalen Carter. And then there's other guys that can't get it done. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Milton bet on himself and he cashed in. Reed bet on himself and he's not cashing in. He's not playing well. So it's a two-way street as well. Because the Eagles tried to sign Milton Williams. The Eagles tried to sign early, very early. The Eagles tried to sign Isaiah Rodgers last year before free agency. Weren't able to get it done. Did they lowball him a little bit? Well, he got more from Minnesota, so that to me is the definition of lowballing him. Now, could he have come back and given the 8 Eagles an opportunity to match? Maybe. Would the Eagles have done it? Maybe. But it's a results-oriented business. And you either get something done or you don't get something done. And Howie knows that better than anybody. But it's not, they didn't lose. The only thing I push back on you, Zander, they didn't lose Milton Williams because they're paying the offense. They lost Milton Williams because they believe there are other people.
I get that.
That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, they didn't pay him because of that. But I'm now looking at the end result and saying, well, this is a problem. The circumstances led to that. And now those circumstances have also led to we lose and get our ass beat to the New York Giants on Thursday Night Football because the offense can't move the ball.
Well, a better question is, and this is a question Jeffrey will have to ask himself after the season. As Jeffrey likes to say, he likes to ask questions. To your point, if we're going to play this way, do we need to pay these receivers what we pay these receivers? And that's a very slippery slope because, as Mike pointed out, look, if you don't have that threat on the outside, well, everybody's just going to load the box. So it's a catch-22 because it looks like they're not valuable or they're not providing the value on paper from a statistical standpoint, but their presence alone is probably worth the value because you're not going to be able to perform this offense. And this is when it's clicking. Forget about when it's not clicking. So go back to last year. That offense isn't that offense without A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, even though it's not a high volume offense, because of their presence and just because of their threat. Whereas if you have Jalen Reagor and John McKee out there, not picking on John McKee, Saquon Barkley ain't running for 2,000 yards, even with the great offensive line. It's not happening. So, and that's where the Eagles deserve some credit because they have an owner who is willing to, A, curtail what he wants because he wants a high volume passing offense, and B, realize, okay, these guys are still valuable even though they're not performing like Jamar Chase does with Joe Burrow or Justin Jefferson does with Sam Darnold. You have to give Jeffrey Lurie credit for that as well because he realizes the value of those particular players.
I agree. We got BLG in the green room. We're going to bring him up a second here. We got one more super chat. B Pumper says, people keep giving Hurts full credit for the Super Bowl. Fellas, the defense held Mahomes and Andy from crossing midfield for almost 3 quarters. Yeah,
Pumper, you listen to the show every day. That's all I talked about.
Yeah. Well, they were up 24-0 at halftime, and the Chiefs literally never got past half field. So I do think both, that was a complimentary game. Hurts still does deserve some credit, Pumper. He played well and took advantage of some opportunities. But you're right, the defense really.
If I could have given the MVP to that defensive front, I would have given it to them.
Yeah. Josh Sweat had an argument too. He was good in that game. But I hear
Milton had an argument. They both had an argument.
Yeah, they did.
But they're not going to give it to.
Yeah, I get it. Kind of the nature of the beast, no doubt. Good stuff. We got BLG coming up here in the green room. He's going to join us right now here on Birds 365. You can follow him at Brandon Gouton and read all his work at bleedinggreennation.com. Make an account on there, interact with all the great people, respond to BLG's articles. It's a great community, great Eagles spot to be. BLG, welcome to the program, man. Never a dull moment in the city of brotherly love. How you doing this morning, man?
Absolutely. Always something to talk about. I am looking forward to getting into it this morning.
We haven't talked, shockingly, because we've been talking so much about the offense, which is amazing because the defense played poorly against the New York, very poorly. And now all of a sudden they get back from the mini bye and Big Z saying, you know what? I'm done. I think that surprised us all. He seemed happy to be here. He was asked the question, did you ever even think about retirement? And he was like, nope, I got plenty left in the tank. And all of a sudden he said, I'm done. Bad for the Eagles. Do they have to make a move? Is there any possibility they can stay in-house with this edge group at this point, BLG?
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I don't know that they need to go out and get, literally Trey Hendrickson, but I think they just need I think they need multiple things here at edge rusher. I think they need someone who can make more of an impact. They also probably just need more bodies at that position when you're getting light here after you've lost Obo Okoronkwo, after you've lost Nolan Smith IR. Obviously, he's expected to come back at some point here around the bye, perhaps. And obviously you lose Za'Darius Smith as well. I think they just need some more depth at that position, in addition to obviously trying to be able to add someone who can actually start or be, a high level rotational player at that spot.
What do you think, real quick? Your personal assessment of Jalix Hunt, because that seems to be a player. There's certain players, Kelly Ringo, where Vic is like, not playing. With Jalix, he's always like, yeah, he's playing good. He's playing good. I don't see it. I think he's very good. I shouldn't say very good. I think he's better against the run, setting the edge, than he is as a pass rusher. And I think he was brought in as a developmental pass rushing tag on him. I think he's a solid player. I think he'd be a good number 3 or even number 4 in a rotation. But as number 1, and that's what he is right now, going into Minnesota, he's number 1. That is a bad position to be in from my perspective. Why do you think Vic likes him so much?
I mean, you see the effort, and he's such a likable guy. I think, as a personality that, I think there are
Keely's likable. I like Keely.
Well, yeah, but I think that maybe not the effort always, but some of the I think he can trust Jalix Hunt out there. When you're Keely Ringo and you're not touching a guy down after you give up a big reception, how the heck is the coach supposed to even trust you to be out there on the field if you don't know the rules and you need to touch a player down? I just think there's a lack of trust there with Keely. Whereas I don't think, Jalix Hunt has burned Vic Fangio in that kind of way. So you're right, though, John. It's absolutely not ideal. And I think, it's kind of Jalix Hunt kind of becoming a victim of his own success in a way, in that, he has this promising rookie campaign ahead of schedule, I would say. I think anyone would agree with that, considering his background. But that doesn't mean that he just, necessarily is going to go from where he was as a rookie and automatically take off in this major way in year 2. Like you said, this is a developmental kind of player that they took on. It might take a little bit more time than just, his rookie season.
All right, BLG, I'm going to do it. John, I know you're mad at me, but I got to do it. You can bring them back to the defense if you want. BLG, you're spending almost five times on offense than you are on defense. They took a blowtorch to Vic Fangio's number 1 overall defense. They got this big, expensive, high-powered offense. They're ranked 30th in the NFL, BLG. I mean, you want me to figure out what's wrong with the Eagles right now? I'm pointing to the offense first before the defense, even if the defense does give up 30 a game. You pay for more on the offense. I'm expecting more. How do you analyze the offense right now? It almost seems like if we don't have the best offensive line in football, BLG, we can't be a good offense. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that's a fair framing. And I also think the defense at times of the season has really carried their weight. And I don't really think you can say that about the offense as much, for sure. And I think the defense, has been put in a lot of bad situations because of the offense. So, while they're not perfect, while they're flawed, I think, they've done a decent enough job where if the offense has been functioning or had been functioning more like they should reasonably expected to perform, then the defense wouldn't be, as big of an issue as it seems right now. So I absolutely put more of the onus on the offense as well. And I think just across the board, like it's a broken offense right now. There's no identity. The play calling, obviously there's questions about that. You have Lane Johnson talking about it. Nick Sirianni, I always come back to what is he doing? I know, he's not calling the plays. I don't know how involved he is in design. We don't know that, fully, but I mean, he's the head coach. So when the offense is struggling to this effect, he has to help come up with solutions at some level. And by the way, again, he picked the offensive coordinator. We all know that. So like he wears some blame in this. Jalen Hurts has to be better. I thought that was his worst game of the season on Thursday night. The effort at times across the board isn't there. I kind of, that's on the players to obviously have more pride, and that shouldn't be an issue. It's also on the coaching staff to never tolerate that. I don't know why that gets tolerated so often. So I really look at it across the board and say that there's so much blame to wear.
Yeah, well, certainly it's a conflation of things, and I think everybody has their thumb in some parts of the problems. But I think for the first time, and I often talk about this off season, there was a stunning, and we do the show every day, obviously, and there was a stunning lack of talk about the quarterback coming off a Super Bowl win, understandably. I don't think it's that much difference. The passing game specifically, I think it's the same as it was last year, to be honest, BLG, for the most part. The difference to me is they can't run the football. Mm-hmm. So they no longer have the crutch to mask the deficiencies in the passing game. Nothing's changed. They're late to the line of scrimmage. The ball doesn't come out. When do people start having, we've started on this show just recently, when are people going to start having these difficult conversations? And to me, it is, there's some issues with the quarterback.
It's weird, though, because while I agree that Jalen Hurts, again, part of the problem here right now, especially after that performance we just saw, like that first half of the Buccaneers game, one of the best first halves of his career, right? Early in the Giants game, even, he played relatively well. Yeah, like, so it's not just as like, he just stinks all game long. And obviously, there's 4 quarters. I'm not saying he needs to be just like the Eagles themselves need to be better for all 4 quarters. There's moments within here. And even going back to week 1, where I thought Jalen Hurts bailed them out a lot. Like that offense.
I think he won that game.
Exactly.
But let me just push back real quick, BLG, because I think, and I've even said, this seems to me the week where he's going to go out and everybody's down, and he's going to go out and have a big game against Brian Flores and a good defense on paper. And I think he's going to have a big game. He's going to sit at the post-game podium and say, is that what you wanted to see? Or some paraphrasing. And everybody's going to be copacetic for a week, and you're going to go back to the inconsistency. Mm-hmm. Obviously, those up points have always been there, and they will continue to be there. The consistency is my problem.
For sure.
It is my problem. And I don't think it's getting fixed.
Well, that's fair. Yeah, I think that's a fair gripe at that point. And I do think, to your point, it could be a good week for him. We used to talk about how, oh my gosh, how the Eagles are going to handle the blitz. They literally have no answers. Now Jalen Hurts has seemed to master that. Maybe that's actually a good matchup for him.
I know, it's crazy,
Brian Flores this week, which is funny. Yeah, but I think that's a fair point. I think the consistency absolutely needs to be better. And especially, again, when you have this supporting cast that he does. I mean, think about what Jackson Dart's working with out there on Thursday night. He's freaking little Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, that's what I mean. Holy crap. Please don't get me started on that, BLG. Oh, my goodness. Little Jordan Humphrey is dominating.
Wandale Robinson. Who needs Malik Neighbors when Wandale Robinson is playing like Malik Neighbors? Yeah, it was a poor performance all around. And I do think, look, I think that's a low point because they lost to her. I by no means, I've not tried to shade that loss at all. That is a brutal loss in the NFL. And I think that will be a low point. I think they'll rebound. I think they went into that game probably less focused than normal. It was a short week. They probably said, we're going to roll over this team. And they got they got bitten in the ass. I think they'll correct things to a certain level. But to me, if they don't fix the running game, and I don't know how you fix the running game because I don't think it's Saquon, but the numbers are the numbers. And I think contextually, the offensive line is still, it's not what it was last year, but it's still top 10 in the league. Lane's playing well. Jordan's playing well. We know Landon with the injuries. We know Cam with the injuries not playing up to their speed. I think Tyler Steen has been better than I thought. I don't think Brett Toth is going to help much, but look, everybody else is dealing with it. Dallas had 4 injuries on their offensive line, and they have one of the best offenses in football.
Mm-hmm.
You got to persevere in this league. I don't know how they fix the running game, and if they can't fix the running game, maybe Eric Wilson is the fix, our old buddy out in Minnesota. But if they don't fix the running game, I don't know how you turn this offense around, because they can't just change their philosophy mid-season overnight.
Yeah.
And look, I'm not going to be the person in Philadelphia who's like, Jeff Stoutland, go after, everyone needs to go after him. But I mean, he's the run game coordinator, and the run game flat out sucks right now. And they have to figure that out. I think the Cowboys point there, John, is great because, not only a banged up offensive line, but, Javonte Williams looked great. Does anyone want Javonte Williams over Saquon Barkley? Really? I don't think so. And to add some more context to this, shout out to Niz Selman here, who points out Saquon is being contacted behind the line of scrimmage on 35.8% of his carries this season. That's second most in the NFL and most in his career. Think about that. Those bad Giants offensive lines.
Giants, yeah.
This is even worse than that in terms of how early he's being contacted. So it can't just it's hard to feel like, to your point, that the offensive line is just terrible and has no hope given the talent that they've had. I've mentioned before, I do think, the toll of last year's physical style, how they played in terms of running so much is taking.
Yeah, I'm starting to be on your team with that.
Yeah.
I mean, those were the guys getting beat up, not Saquon.
Right.
He wasn't getting touched until 4 or 5 years.
And again, and Tyler Steen too, he looks rather healthy. He wasn't out there like those other guys were.
Yeah.
So if we don't have the greatest run game, the easy solution to me, BLJ, because you're right. I mean, the offensive line's getting paid. Saquon and Barker's getting paid, is to use the receivers that some call, the best tandem in the league, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. We don't seem to be able to do that, and I think that's a problem because I don't think we should. Look, I get it. We've built we've buttered our bread on the offensive line and the running game. I'm not of the belief if you can't dominate in that realm, then you should just be the 30th offense in football. I don't. Why do we pay AJ and Devontae if that's the case? It doesn't make sense to me. So that's where I understand where people, look and just say, won't even name names. Would a different skill set allow you to play a different way or be a different type of team? And I think those calls are going to grow if the offense can't get it going.
Well, something has to give at some point if the offense continues to be this bad. Right. Nick can say, they're not going to change anything. It's 6 games into the season. But they're coming off their mini bye, but their actual bye, is fast approaching. And if the offense looks terrible against both, the Vikings and the Giants again, I think real change is probably coming at that point. Or if it's not, then I don't know when it will at that point. But yeah, it's just it can't underperform for this long. It's just there's no good reason for it.
If it goes on and the Eagles go back to sort of normal, I do think the Thursday night was probably the low point. And say they win 11 games and they lose on the wild card round. Is that where it becomes, well, we're just going to fire the offensive coordinator. We're going to force Nick to go outside the organization. It's going to be that stitch. Then they're going to try to, whoever, maybe it's Mike McDaniel. Everybody, you bring in Mike McDaniel. He tries to run motion for the first 3 weeks. They go, we can't do this, and scale back to, if they just do that circle again, or is it time to have tough conversations that, hey, if we're going to continue to play this way, we just have to embrace the running game and move on from the receivers. Or if we don't want to play this way, we got to move on from the running back, or dare I say, we have to get a different quarterback. Is it time to have those discussions? That's a long hypothetical.
Yeah.
An ode to Jody McDonald.
Right.
But where's that breaking point to BLG?
Well, I think the head coach is the breaking point before the quarterback is the breaking point. That's, I would say, often the case. And obviously, again, a lot of things have to happen to get to that point. But this is like a big, pet peeve of mine. And just in terms of how we talk about, play caller inconsistency and all that, I talk about it a ton on the show here. Like, offensive coordinator stability is not a real thing in the NFL. Like, you just really do not see that.
It isn't. You're right.
And therefore, the way to get around that is to have a head coach who calls the plays, or at least can, even if maybe they're not calling the plays, have like a big hand in the offense that you feel comfortable with. Such as maybe like, obviously this is a top example, like Andy Reid. Sometimes he defers out play calling, as we've seen over the years, but obviously it's Andy Reid's offense. He has a big influence on that offense. And this is a big weakness of Nick Sirianni. And guess what? It wasn't like the Eagles hired Nick Sirianni to not have that be the thing. He was calling the plays originally. Like they did. And that's been their model for years. They did have Andy Reid do that. They did have Chip Kelly do that. They did have Doug Peterson do that. So they wanted that to happen originally, but Nick's incompetence there, quite frankly, wasn't good enough. So they've had to outsource that.
Fair point.
And it's been a constant issue for them. So that's just my frustration. Like, he absolutely has to wear blame in this. You don't just get to put him in a box to decide.
I mean, the head coach is always going to be blamed.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, I think he gets the extra year. So sure. I think the scapegoat is Kevin, which will be interesting. Yeah. Plus they're so close. So I've often said there might be some pushback where there wasn't going to be pushback with Brian Johnson. There might be some pushback with Kevin Patullo, and then he might go the Doug Peterson route where he says, you know what? I won a Super Bowl. I should do this. I should be this. And who knows? It can go off the rails that quickly. But I don't know. I just think nobody wants to play this style of offense in that building. And they're all playing that style of offense to accentuate the quarterback. And it's worked to a ludicrously successful degree. And I think it's created this air of misery because nobody wants to play this way, but they feel they have to play this way. Am I overstating that?
I mean, I think that's a real element. And it's not even just from last year, too. We saw that in like the second half of Jalen Hurts' first season as a starter in 2021. Like, they started to run the ball a lot more coming out of the bye and shifted away from, being so pass heavy. So even going back to that, and going back to last year when, he's throwing 30 plus times a game in the first 4 games of the season before the bye, afterward, and he said, the turnovers are there. Afterwards, they go away from that. So, like, at a very simple level, the offense got better when Jalen Hurts was less involved. That doesn't mean, obviously, again, he didn't contribute and didn't make important plays when he had to. And it's easy to say, all he had to do was take care of the ball. Not every quarterback can do that. The quarterback the Eagles might play this week can't do that very well.
That's what's so strange. He makes a crap load of plays. He's just such an unconventional, successful quarterback. And to your point, week 1, he won that game. I firmly believe that. He carried the Eagles over the finish line. So it's a really difficult conversation to have. Really difficult.
He's a unique player.
I wonder on some of those runs how much money they're leaving on the table. You take a 12-yard run, but you maybe have a 40-yard opening or something. I don't know. I don't want to speak on that because I can't see the whole thing, and I'm not going to act like I know. But I do wonder that at times.
It goes both ways. Yeah, there's times probably where that's the case. There's times probably where there's nothing, and he's making something out of nothing.
That's true.
Yeah. True. Yeah. It's just but I wouldn't want to be in that position to make that decision. To be honest, it is. Because they don't want to play this way. And there's always
LJ.
What's that?
What do you think Jeffrey Lurie thinks? I mean, this guy's
frustrated.
kind of famous for like I want the high flying passing offense.
Not kind of famous.
Well, yeah, the classic example is when the Eagles go to Green Bay when Doug was here, right? And it was that like a big Jordan Howard game. Eagles running game is awesome, but Carson Wentz throws for, I don't know, 100 yards, whatever. Passing game offense not quite there. Jeffrey Larry's like, what's the deal with this? Even after the Eagles got a big win in that spot. So I would think so. He's paying all this money for, it's again, it'd be one thing if the offense was kind of just like average in a lot of these metrics. That would still be disappointing, but I think you could be like, okay, offensive line kind of beat up, new play caller. You can excuse some things to an extent, but to be this inept and just to look flat out hopeless at times for like big portions of games, that's just unacceptable.
Yeah, especially when they do get that burst down, it seems like they have tremendous efficiency. Like it's such a weird offense. When they do get going, the red zone is unbelievable. First in the NFL. They're unbelievably efficient when they start to get moving, when they start to get rolling, but then they have 4 straight 3-and-outs or 4 or 5. It's I can imagine their frustration. And no matter how much we talk about it, I can't explain it. I'm sure they can't explain it. Other than this is a very difficult way, I keep coming back to play football. Like you're making it harder on yourself. But you're making it harder on yourself and all you've had is success.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Well, I think that you can thread the needle of like, this is a tough path to walk. You can walk it, but it's not an easy path to walk.
Yeah.
So, it's going to be, there's certain things you're going to have to do to, set yourself up for success in that scenario, but you're not like necessarily, giving yourself the most room for error is how I'd put it.
Yeah. Yeah. I talk about the margin of error all the time. It's very small with this offense, very small. And I don't think that's where anybody wants to be, but I'm at the stage where in their current incarnation, I don't know where there's going to be much improvement outside of execution. And then people hate when you say that. When they hate when Nick says it, they hate when I say it. They probably hate when you say it. Well, they have to execute better. They're not changing their philosophy. So other than executing better, playing better, doing better the way they're built to run this offense, I don't see a lot of room for improvement. They're not going to become a Kyle Shanahan offense, a Sean McVay offense. This is it. So they better figure out the running game, number one, and then they'll get back to where potentially they were last year. And arguably, at times, even in that Giants game, from a throwing perspective, take out the interception, they were better than they were in the majority of games last year. But I think that was masked by all the winning.
I think effort needs to be better too, and that's not something I just call out all the time. But you see it on film with this offense.
Dory Jackson and
for sure on defense too. But like with the offense, just guys just jogging out their routes way too often. And I get there's playing wide receiver is probably a lot harder than most people would think in terms of you're running all these routes, you're not getting the ball, but that's what the money is for. And you saw it in the Giants game with what I think is still a bad throw from Jalen Hurts, but Jahan Dotson kind of rounding out that route there. That's not the best route I've ever seen in my life. No. Obviously, AJ, there's been cases where that, not running out the route fully. So I think that just shouldn't be acceptable. And that's not new. And I don't know how, Nick Sirianni, who preaches master the things that require no talent, is tolerating that. And I have a tough time, and I'm not watching Chiefs all 22 and Lions all 22, but I have a tough time. Andy Reid and Dan Campbell are, tolerating that kind of effort. That seems to me, part of a culture problem.
Did you see that last year though?
Probably times There could have been at times, but that's okay. But if you're functioning overall as an offense, maybe you're afforded some more grace in that area. When you're trying to get things going and you are struggling so much, maybe the effort needs to tick up a little bit more.
That's a fair point.
All right, BLG, final one for me. Don't shoot me. I'm just the messenger. ESPN put up an article today. They do this thing. Jeremy Fowler wrote his piece on, should we be worried about the Eagles' offense? Are they worried about it? And Jeremy Fowler writes here, one player told me that this is starting to feel like the 2023 meltdown all over again. And the team needs to use this week to figure things out and avoid a full-blown repeat. Are you in that boat at all? Is that crazy? What do you think about that comment from Jeremy Fowler on ESPN?
I'm definitely alarmed by how the Eagles just got bullied. I mean, how many times, to Nick Sirianni's credit, I've given him a lot of criticism here. To his credit, at least in the past, this team has been ready to play, like incredibly more often than not. They were not ready to play against the Giants. So that was pretty alarming to me. And that kind of did remind me about how the worst of it looked in 2023 down the stretch there. You know, it's early enough where there's so much season left that I'm not ready to say they're going to have that same stretch where they totally just look lost and helpless. And it's going to be like this, literally the entire, how many games 11 games they have left. I think that's too long of a stretch to say. And obviously they have a bye week in here too. And I think that can help them a little bit coming off the mini bye, but there's like very real warning signs here for sure. When you look at, how they rank in terms of like the advanced metrics like DVOA, and they're middle of the pack team and point differential, and they've been outgained in every game. Like all these are indicators that they're not a great team, and they're 4-2, and that's great in terms of and having these tiebreakers over the Rams and the Bucks. Like that's valuable to have, but all the indications are they just need to play a lot better, or else they're headed down a path where they're going to finish the year and be a lot more closer to 500 than they would like to be.
Yeah, I hate the 2023 comparisons only because it's Vic Fangio. It's not Sean Desai and Matt Patricia. That the collapse in 23 was not totally, but 80% defense.
Right. Could it be 80% offense this year?
That's potentially more so. I know the defense is not going to fall to the level they fell against the Giants simply because.
Shout out to Dick. I mean, he's taking accountability at the press conference yesterday, and they're rolling out a bunch. Keely Ringo, Adoree Jack. I mean, they gave him nothing this offseason. A bunch of Emu signings. None of them have worked.
But he's so much better than what they had in 2023. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I think also that's 2023 BLG is an example why I don't care. You can fire Kevin Patullo after the season. Do not fire him in season, because Matt Patricia is a better football coach than Sean Desai, but they got worse when they moved from Sean Desai to Matt Patricia. Yeah. I think it could get worse if you move from, and who are you going to move to?
That's the question,
Kevin Patullo to Jason Michael. I mean, what
he called plays from Bowling Green. He called plays at Bowling Green.
Scott Leffler, the quarterback coach. Then you got to bring in another quarterback coach for the quarterback that's had so many different quarterback coaches. That to me would make it worse.
Well, yeah. Also, I don't think you're going to change your offense on the fly. Like this is what the off-season practices are for. Like you're installing what you do. You're not like, all right, we're going to install a brand new system just out of nowhere. Like they don't even practice a ton, like as McFangio will tell you. So like,
and they'll scale back. And now this is the time of year you'll start seeing walkthroughs.
Exactly.
You're 100% right. They don't practice. You can't.
Well, John, you came on this program a lot, and you as well, BLG. Also, all training camp, they don't push the ball downfield. They throw underneath. They throw these. They don't do anything offensively in prep. I don't know. That's what they were practicing. Maybe this is the result of that.
And by the way, I'd like to see a flat throw to Will Shipley. Throw it out there. See what happens.
Yeah.
They did it 100 million times in training camp. I don't know. Simple stuff. Stay ahead of the sticks. I do think that's a big problem. No more 2nd and 13s.
Yeah.
Just stay ahead of the sticks.
All right, BLJ, your final thought, and real quick, do they get back in the win column this week? We got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison going up against Ringo and Jackson, assuming Quinyon might not play. Do they get back in the win column this week?
Yeah, when you frame it like that, it's like almost insane to pick the Eagles. Right?
Well, remember who's throwing those guys the football, BLG.
Oh, yeah, that is the key. That is the key. I do think Carson Wentz, assuming it's him, we don't know yet officially, I guess, but assuming it is Mr. Wentz back there, he's going to take sacks. He's going to fumble the ball like he always does. Yep. He could give them an interception or two. So I'm thinking that it's possible that I guess I feel a little foolish just considering how the Eagles played in that game against the Giants, but I don't think I'm totally ready to just say, and they are favored obviously by the betting lines, 2.5 point favorite.
I think Jalen's going to have a big game. He generally bounces back in these circumstances when the talk starts to ramp up, and he generally has a big game. I think they're going to play well, and I think they're probably going to escape with a win. To your point, Carson's going to turn it over, man.
Yep.
So there'll probably be a 50-yard Jefferson touchdown or something like that, or Addison gets behind there'll be that, but I think when it comes down to it, they'll win the turnover battle and win the game. That's where I am early in the week.
Yeah, I'll give them a field goal win, so they barely just cover.
All right, we'll see. I don't know who I'm picking yet. BLJ, man, we appreciate it as always. Always bring good truth to the conversation. We appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you again next week. All right.
Sounds good. See you guys.
Thanks, bud.
Follow BLJ at Brandon Galton. Go and read his work at bleedinggreennation.com. John, good show today. Some are saying it's a negative one in the chat.
Oh, negative. We're negative. Oh, God forbid. Baby ears.
John, there's one thing I don't understand. Yeah, there's a lot of things I don't understand, but this is one of the things I don't understand. At a press conference last year, Jalen Hurts at the podium said, the offense is going to look, and he spoke in third person, how Jalen Hurts wants it to look. And that's great. I'm fine. I don't even have a problem with that conversation or with that quote. So when we win, a lot of people give him a lot of credit. That's fine too. Now when we lose or we get beat by the New York Giants, or we're the 30th ranked offense through the first 6 weeks of the 2025 season, everybody says I'm nuts for saying Jalen Hurts is partly to blame. Like, if you give him all the credit when he's successful and then it's not successful, he gets none of the blame. I don't understand. That part of it doesn't compute to me.
Well, that's the old adage, and very old, proven adage. Quarterbacks get more credit when they win than they deserve, get more credit than they deserve when they lose. It's just the nature of it. Coaches as well. You're talking about the extremes, but like you have the extremes, and we saw it this week of guys who want to bench, which is ludicrous. And then you have the extremes of people who think you can't entertain the thought that an NFL quarterback is not partially responsible for a struggling offense. Think about that. Forget the name. Any NFL quarterback on a struggling offense is partially to blame. Period. That's not controversial.
Yeah, right.
They have tremendous impact on the game. Positive, negative, in between. Tremendous impact. So to say that Jalen Hurts has no culpability is just as dumb as those who say he should be benched. Same thing, just different ends of the spectrum. If you want to use the political comparison, the far right people, the far left people, they end up in the same space, which is stupidity. They just got there by a different path.
All right, John. Ah, gosh.
Well, it's true. So
I know it is.
If you think in any NFL quarterback, from Patrick Mahomes on down, is not culpable when an offense is struggling, you're being silly.
Yeah,
you're being ridiculous. And then to blame them for everything on the other end is ridiculous.
Well, there is a lot of people blaming Patullo, but answer this. It's Nick Sirianni's offense, correct? Not Kevin Patullo's. Kevin Patullo is the play caller.
Correct. Nick
Sirianni, had a pretty damn good offense, when he was hired. Here.
Go watch Phillip Rivers tape from Indianapolis.
Yeah.
Go watch Phillip Rivers tape.
They were averaging 380 a game in that year, 2020.
And they did a lot of things when it came to manipulating things at the line of scrimmage. And a lot of success.
All right, John, the agenda for the Birds today, and then we'll get your final thought.
Wednesday, big practice day, biggest day of the week. Nick talks, I believe, at 12:15-ish. Practice is at 3:05. Locker room doesn't open until near 5. You'll have the first practice report of the week, so that will give more clarity to Jalen Carter and Quinyon Mitchell specifically. I expect Jalen Carter to play in Minnesota. I do not expect Quinyon Mitchell. If he's not practicing today, that's a very bad sign. And yeah, we'll move on from there.
Johnny Mac, your final thought here on the show. Today we talked about a lot of stuff, all right? Oh, wait, I got a super chat I got to read to you. People always send them for you, so they get mad at me if I don't read them, Neil. Miguel says, here we go again, fellas. An anonymous player said it feels like 23. Yeah, I read that to John or an NBLJ from Fowler. That's not good. Kelly says, fix the running game by getting under center. Utilize play action more often. Stop running from gun and pistol every time. Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah, well, you can say the same thing in Washington, Gene. That's college football, and it's the way football is going, and guys are more comfortable, and that's what they learned, and that's why they do it. You're not going to turn Jalen Hurts into a Kyle Shanahan type play action quarterback during week 6 and week 7 of the NFL season. That takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Now, can they line up under center? Look, they line up under center more than some of these teams with gun and pistol quarterbacks because they run the tush push. But to do what you're doing, traditional play action, that's not how they play. If you want to play that way, you have to go get a different quarterback. Maybe Tanner McKee.
Gosh. Eduardo says, if Jalen does have a good game and says if that what you all wanted to see at the podium, John, it would be epic if you reply with, can you be consistent?
Well, no, I'm not there. I think a lot of people, I'm not there to, dunk on the quarterback. I'm there to get information.
Yeah, right.
But he can. There's no doubt he's going to have good games throwing the football because I've seen it. But what the problem is can you get to a consistent level throwing the football? That I have not seen. So, to me, it's a valid criticism.
Fair enough. One more super chat, John, then we'll let you run here. Dirty D says, is our offensive line help the byproduct of running the tush push so much last year?
No, I don't. I think it's more of how much they ran the football, the grind and the talk. I mean, those guys were physical, and they were the ones taking the punishment, not Saquon. So I think we all got hyper focused on Saquon. Well, he's not getting touched until he's 3-4 yards down the field. They're the ones beating up their bodies to open up those runs. I think in hindsight, that has taken a toll. It's certainly, I mean, Cam has admitted it. Landon has gone through what he's gone through. That took a toll on the Mekhi Becton out in Los Angeles has been hurt. And the BLG's point, he pointed out Tyler Steen looks fresh because he didn't play last year. Everybody else played. And that also tells you the brilliance of and Landon Lane's been in and out as well. But the brilliance of Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata because they're still playing at a high level.
Yep, no doubt. Caesar drops a big one for us. Just thank you for the show, keeping it real. Caesar, thank you, brother. Johnny Mac, great show today, man. I know you got to run. We appreciate you doing it. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, all right, man?
All right, thanks all.
All right, thanks, Johnny Mac. John McMullen there joining us here. Follow him at JF McMullen. All right, great show today. A lot of stuff to talk about. We'll have a good Zander time today as well. We'll kick some things around. Caesar, big thank you, man, for the big super chat. All right, I know you're getting in. I ordered your sweatshirt for you. I got to send you out some more stuff. Caesar, how long are you in town? That's a question because some of that shit can take a minute to ship. So trying to get it there for you. Brian Pumper says, Jalen impersonating MJ is causing this team's downfall. I said it. Dressing and aura farming like the GOAT is taken away from the preparation. I don't give a shit how Jalen Hurts dresses. I care about he plays the game. I don't give a rat's ass what he wears. All right. I don't care at all. All right. Yeah, DS, that's true. All right. All right. I hear you guys. All right, look, a lot of conversation. I want to focus on the Zander time today on coaching, and I want to focus on the offensive coordinator, and I want to focus on Nick Sirianni and this offense because, there's a lot of conversation about these guys. I get tweets all the time. People, how many times I got tweeted, oh, Carlos, that's good news. Thank you, dude. But I keep getting these, I keep getting things tweeted at me about the offense, like, this is George Pickens' route tree, and then you have, Devontae Smith's route tree. And I'm like, they're all to the outside of the field, and it's been that way for multiple years, and it's that way with most of the receivers on the team. So it's like, sometimes I don't understand what's the common denominator? Maybe that's just where the quarterback likes to throw the ball. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But do we really believe that just running George Pickens' route tree is the solution to the offense? Doesn't make full sense to me. And the reason I brought up the coaching in the past is, and I get it, you had Phillip Rivers. It was a way different year, way different team, way different quarterback. I understand that. But we talk like Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo are incapable of creating route concepts that are across the middle of the field or all the other places to go. And I don't necessarily think that's true. So, look, Jalen is what he is. He has limitations, as every quarterback does, and he's going to be what he's going to be. But I'm not necessarily buying into this is all because of Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo. It doesn't add up to me. It doesn't add up to me. So I don't know. It is what it is. I know we had a lot to talk about on today's show, and a lot of you thought it was overly negative. It was overly negative. I mean, let's be real. It was an overly negative conversation today about the deficiencies of the Eagles. Were we over the top? Potentially we were in some areas, but we always try and talk about the things, whether people want to talk about them or not. And look, I do think the 30th ranked offense in pro football with the highest payroll is a problem. I think it's a bigger problem than the defense. I really do. If some people don't, they're certainly entitled to that prerogative, and I'm certainly open to receive pushback as I have all show. I'm certainly open to receive pushback. All right. VSVA says, Big Z, by percentage, how do you rank the problems? Quarterback, O-line, offensive coordinator, head coach, O-line coach. I'm going to put the O-line coach pretty low there, probably 5. I probably put O-line, because of the way the team is built, probably number 1. Then I'm going to put quarterback number 2. Then I'm going to put head coach number 3 because it's his offense. Number 4, offensive coordinator. Number 5, O-line coach. Kevin Patullo just calling plays, guys. You don't get into a game and make the route concepts in the game. It's all there before. It's all there in the prep for the week. He's picking plays off a sheet, guys. He's picking plays off a sheet. All right. Hip Hop says it was negative, bro. I interview people all the time. You were leading with your question. Well, yeah, maybe I was. I mean, it's because I think that this is a negative offense right now, and I don't feel confident about this offense. And I think the problems there are bigger than people are leading on, I do. You need someone to debate your push. Are you kidding me? John pushes back on damn near everything I say. Hip Hop, I don't know what you're talking about with that. All right. Dirty D says, do they refuse to throw across the middle because they have a higher chance of turnovers? I mean, you obviously have a higher chance of turnovers. I mean, I don't think that's a good like, Yeah, you have a higher chance of turnovers if you throw the ball more. You also have a higher chance to get a lot more passing yards. You also have a higher chance to get more touchdowns. You also have a higher chance to move the ball better. You also have a higher chance to be better than the 30th ranked offense in football. I don't know. It is what it is. Hip Hop says, bring on a real Eagles fan to debate. Hip Hop, every single week on the post-game show on JAKIB Sports, right on this program with me as the host, I send out the link, and anybody and everybody is entitled to join. I've never had somebody come on that I've blocked out, that I've removed, that I've said no, that I never. Anybody is free to join. People that don't like Jalen, people that love Jalen, people that think I'm an asshole, people that like me. It doesn't matter. I've never blocked off anybody from joining. You're free to join as well if you want to debate me. All right? Yeah, Morty. I would suggest Nick Sirianni study how Franklin ran his teams and then make sure you do the opposite. You need discipline. Need Nick Saban. Yeah, Morty, that's a lost that is a lost art. All right? That is a lost art today. Carmine says, Andrew and my sister Kim on. Kim was excellent when she was on the program. I thought Kim was awesome. It was great talking to her. All right. Was he wearing his JAKIB hoodie? I love NJ, man. I'm always over there on the channel. All right. I'm always over there on the channel. I'm always watching him. I really appreciate him. Real Rich. He's been a supporter of our network for 4 or 5 years now. So I got a lot of love for him, man. He's a great dude. He's a good dude. All right. Hip Hop, I'm push back right now. Please. I'll answer. I will pull up every comment you send right now. Super chat or not. I like pushback. People, just because I say something you don't agree with doesn't mean I wanted to. I am not in the camp of anybody who disagrees with me should not be heard. I hate that argument. I posted up Underdog, who joined our program last on the post-game show, what I just told you about. And he is not a Jalen Hurts guy. I posted up his interview, and instead of people dissecting and disproving what Underdog said, they attacked his character. Why are you talking to this guy? Why does this guy have a platform to speak? What, this guy's smoking a blunt. You shouldn't listen to him. It's all personal attacks. Nobody wants to discredit what he says. They just want to discredit the person. I love pushback, hip hop. I say it all the time, and I think I try and live up to it. I try and pull comments up from people who don't agree with me. I don't need to be agreed with. I always say I don't want you to listen to JAKIB Sports because you agree with me. Then you'll be gone when you don't agree with me. You know? If you watch me because you agree with me on everything, that's a fan that at the end of the day I don't want, because the second I say something, which is there's a 100% chance every one of you listening doesn't agree with everything I say. 100% chance. I will never say things that you agree with 100%. So if you listen to me only for that, shit, you're going to be gone soon. Niall says that I know that O-line's getting their ass whooped up front. Yeah, they are, Niall. There's no doubt they're a problem. I'm struggling with we need them to be perfect. You know, that's the only way we're good on offense is if the O-line is perfect. Feels like a stretch to me, but it is what it is. James M says, I'm pushing back. Everyone can say it all they want. I supported Hurts against everyone for years. Finally see he is not the only problem, but is the biggest. He's definitely not the only problem. All right. He's not the only problem. There's no doubt he's not the only problem. But when you're the quarterback of the team, you do get, look, you get a lot of credit when you win, and you get a lot of blame when you don't. And that's what's happening with Jalen. But I do think when you look at the way the team is built right now, you know, the star receivers are not hurt. The star receivers are out there. So if the running game is struggling right now, which I agree it is, if the offensive line is struggling right now, which I agree it is, they have to be better. I agree on both of those accounts. Is there no way to use is there no way to get the offense humming a little bit better by using the $32 million wide receiver and the $25 million wide receiver? Are we just left to, if we don't run and if we don't have a great offensive line, we can't move the ball? I don't know with that, man. Vulnerable says, I don't know if I'd still be here on the channel if it was purely rah-rah Jalen and Eagles. I like the elevated conversation. I think this channel brings us closer. I agree, Vitality. But look, we're not going to be for everybody. All right? We're not going to be for everybody. It's okay. That's okay. All right, it is what it is. You know, let me make sure I got on my chat. Dirty D says, got my JAKIB hat, Big Z. It's sick. Love it, Dirty D. Appreciate you ordering one, man, and I appreciate your support of the channel. They are fire hats. Mine's upstairs right now. Mine's upstairs. But, also, Abe, I think your stuff's delivering today, which is exciting. I've been waiting for you to get that care pack. I owed Abe that, man, so I got to get him that. Texas T is going with Cooper or Quinion. So, Texas T, if you're in here, I'm going to be picking up your jersey hopefully tomorrow. All right? All right. Dirty D says, did they refuse to throw across the middle because those – oh, yeah, I saw that. All right. Crowley says, I like to have your sport ants. The green Kelly Green Kango. I like this one too, man. I like this one too. But, look, a lot of conversation. It is what it is, you know. Any full zip hoodies? Karma, I got to look. I got to see. Maybe I can add one to the to the store. I'll look on if my Printful app has a full zip. You like the full zips? I'll see. You know, people ask me to sell this thing. This was custom made. My fiance made me this. This is like a real nice quarter zip. It's not on my store, or else I would sell it. The thing is fucking sweet. But she paid a pretty penny for it, and then she custom embroidered the JAKIB logo on there. I'll go full zip for you, Karma. I'll look for it. All right. There are only a few guys who are real elite at play calling in the entire NFL. Yeah, no, I agree. There's not many of them. Probably Shanahan, McVay. I guess some people say Kevin O'Connell. Yeah, I mean, there's not many. Stoner says, no shit, Z. You wouldn't think as much as this offense is paid, it wouldn't be the issue. And it's exhausting our day with all the 3 and out. I agree completely. Look, it's just tough. It's tough to go right to the defense. You know, it is. I get it. The defense doesn't look good. I agree with you. It didn't look good versus New York. I think it's been okay through, the first 4 weeks. I think it was solid. I think they were part of the reason we won through the first 4 weeks. Last week, they obviously weren't good. But my whole premise with that is like, why are we relying on the $48 million? It's the second lowest paid defense in all of pro football. And I get it. John gives me the circumstantial stuff. I understand that. But we also just let a boatload of defenders walk. So we wouldn't have been the 31st paid defense if we paid some of those guys. How can we blame it all on them? We should have known. Probably middle of the pack. They didn't pay anybody. Probably middle of the pack. The offense, which is the number one paid offense in pro football, should be able to carry the team a little bit more. I don't think they've been able to do that. Hip Hop says, if we just won a Super Bowl, he deserves the benefit of the doubt. I do agree with that. Maybe I've gone a little far on wondering what it would look like with somebody else. I probably have. I think that's probably fair to say, underdog or Hip Hop, but it is what it is. The offense is 30th right now. I do think Jalen deserves the benefit of the doubt, but my only problem with it is, if we don't have that great running game, how good can we be? I don't know, man. I know why Devontae and AJ are upset. They're both upset, man. They are. I mean, guys, don't get mad at me. I'm just the messenger. ESPN put up the article. They do this mailbag, I guess you could say, type of thing where they pose a question and Dan Graziano, Jeremy Fowler, both give their responses to it and kind of go back and forth, and then they write an article. The first question in this week's article was, should we be worried about the Eagles' offense? Are they worried about it, meaning the Eagles? Graziano says this, I lean yes on both questions, with the caveat that they're 4-2 and in a position to be able to fix their problems in time. but there are problems, and they do need to be fixed. It's easy to default to, oh, there's locker room tension, but I really have never had the sense that Eagles players have any personal issues with one another. They all want to be better, and if there's tension, it's because of the 2 straight losses and the urgency they all feel to get it turned around. That was Graziano. Then Jeremy Fowler says, I was at the game against the Giants on Thursday night and definitely sensed concern. One player told me that this is starting to feel like the 2023 meltdown all over again when Philadelphia lost 5 of its last 6 games. And the team needs to use this week to figure things out and avoid a full-blown repeat. Right tackle Lane Johnson, whose words carry weight, told reporters that the offense felt predictable. The issue is pretty clear. The Eagles aren't dominating in the running game the way they did a year ago. So that's what they're talking about over there. And then they continue on. So if you want to go and read that, it's on ESPN.com. I do. Underdog, I think you're right. I have to give Jalen a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. I think he's earned that. I do think he's earned that. But I'm also not in the camp of he's the only reason we won the Super Bowl last year. And I don't think you are either, Hip Hop. I really don't. He's not the only reason we won the Super Bowl last year. He was a big part. He took advantage of big moments. There's no doubt about it. He played his best when the lights were the brightest. He deserves a lot of credit for that. But a defense that doesn't let a team score a point and a half and doesn't let them get past half field does also deserve credit. They do also deserve credit. Nobody believes he's the only reason. All right, Original, that's fair. Valero says, I think coaching is part of the problem. All sides of the ball were flat and they looked unprepared. You heard BLG talking about that. I know, it's funny. John always rips me whenever I bring up effort. I'm not going effort. I'm not going to criticize effort. BLG brought up effort. He didn't say shit. But whatever. I love John. It is what it is. How about John saying, how about John for the first time giving me a little bit of credit today? John giving me a little bit of love today. I don't know if anybody caught that. But if you're a long-time listener, all right, you heard that. Oh, wait, let me read that comment I was supposed to just read. Oh, no, I read it. Got you, man. Again, Xander, you don't have to be an extremist to the further side of the room on one side or the other. Come to the center of the room, my friend. I'm in the center of the room. I'm in the center of the room. I just think the 30th ranked offense has to be better, Original Philly, and the quarterback of the team is somewhat responsible for that. Big King Marcus, what's up, King Marcus? Big changes need to be made or we will continue to lose. Big Marcus, what changes in your eyes need to happen? What changes in your eyes need to happen? I did. J-Mac was like a proud daddy. That's funny. I love J-Mac. I do. I do think he's a smart dude, man. I think he has a very logical, practical way of seeing things. Not just football, like kind of extrapolate it out, Jalen, offense, defense, everything about the game. I think he's always kind of never too high, never too low, and I think that's a good perspective. I do. I think it's a valuable perspective. I do. I think it's a valuable perspective. So, Joe Whip says, I'm getting 2023 vibes. Bad losses, squeaker wins, and an unhappy team. There's no doubt the team looks unhappy to me. Fleming says, J-Max, he is. He's a very objective person. Let me get to some supers. I think I missed a couple. Jair says, I don't know sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Didn't mean to pronounce wrong, but you can explain in the chat or give me your pronunciation. Jair, I don't know. Hurts is the winner, no doubt, but limited in reading defenses and not playing to the potential of the team. Is the goal to get by or dominate? Objectivity is king. I do agree. The team, Jalen struggles in that area. That's why he thrived more in the RPO. People bring up the RPO a lot in 22. Well, the RPO is more built on making the decision in a split second when you get the ball, as opposed to reading and dissecting a defense. I don't even hold this against Jalen as much as some do, because, dude, Jalen has been able to outclass people athletically his entire career. Guys like, he's the hot name right now, Tanner McKee haven't. He can't run. His only way as a quarterback to be successful is to get the ball out of your hands. That's it. You know, same with guys like Phillip Rivers, same with guys like Matthew Stafford, same with guys like to be productive at their position is to get the ball out. The only way to get the ball out consistently is to read the defense fast and get through your progressions quickly. Jalen really hasn't had to do that. You know, he's been able to run around. He's been able to use his athleticism. He's been able to do a lot of different things to be successful. So it's kind of a tough thing where it's like, you know, Jalen never had to do that, and now he's being asked to do that, you know, and he's a little bit behind some people in it. James says, Z, what does everyone say? You can reel in aggression and confidence, but you can't put it into someone who lacks it. Hurts is scared to make the throws necessary in the NFL. This will repeat yearly. I don't know. I've seen him be decisive at times. That's where I think partly the coaching staff is to blame. You know, I think they've beaten into his head that do not turn the football over or else. And now when he sees a tight window in his zone coverage, he hesitates. And we all know, everybody here has been watching football, I would assume, long enough to know, if you don't get that ball out in that single split second in the NFL, the window's closed. It's gone. It's gone. So you got to get the fucking ball out. And I think that single second of hesitation that Jalen has when it comes to don't turn the ball over is one of the reasons that you see him not putting that ball in the tight windows. And then when you see AJ and Devontae upset, it's because the ball was supposed to be there. It never came. You know? That's what I think happens there. Angelo, I agree. I do think it's the inconsistency, you know. Carmine says Mike McDaniel can fix the offense. No, he can't, Carmine. And it's not because I think Mike McDaniel's a shoddy offensive coordinator. It's because Mike McDaniel runs an offense that is basically the antithesis of the way Jalen Hurts plays the game, which is fine, but you just have to let me ask you this, Carmine. Do you expect Mike McDaniel to come here and run his offense with our personnel, or do you expect him to come here and build an offense around Jalen Hurts? That will answer the question. Go Birds. Let me get your super. I didn't mean to miss it, brother. Here we go. Tyler, see, I don't know why. When you guys send super chats, it pulls up a regular name. See, Go Birds 802. Here. Uh-oh. What's happening with my mouse now? Go Birds 802 is here, and then when he sends a super chat, he's Tyler Con. I don't know what YouTube is doing with these names, man. It's the weirdest thing in the world. It says my internet's bad. Do you guys still have me connected perfectly? Do you guys still have me connected? Can anybody just confirm that real quick? I don't know why my internet keeps shitting out. I'm a robot? Damn. Fuck. Give me 1 second. It should come back. It normally comes back. Oh, come on. A little blurry, but the audio is good. All right, I'll keep rolling here. Let me get to the super chat. Tyler, sorry if I'm blurry or not coming through clearly. I will reread it if my internet gets better here. I don't know what's going on. Tyler says, I don't think the blame lies solely on the O-line. Hurts is hanging them out to dry with his inability to read a defense and throw guys open. I mean, I do think he struggles in that area, as we just talked about with some of the athleticism. So, you know, because he's been so good at that, so he hasn't had to dissect defenses in order to make plays. I do think that's one of the reasons, you know, and look, I'm with the people who say you can't be so extreme one way. I do agree with that. But I do want everybody to go and do something today. And again, don't take it as I want this guy to start. Please. Don't take it that way. But go and watch. If you have NFL Game Pass, I'd urge you to watch the full game, or at least watch the condensed version. It's 35 minutes long. Go watch Week 18 last year, Tanner McKee versus the Giants. Please. I'm not saying Tanner McKee is better than Jalen Hurts. I'm not saying he should start. I'm just saying you can clearly see how quick he goes through his progressions. It's very obvious because it's all he has. He can't run. He can't move around defensive tackles in his face. He can't get around edge rushers. He can't. He can throw the ball from the pocket. That's it. If you go and watch that game, you see in the pocket, he scans the field, he gets the ball out. That's progression reading. You know, it's a very different style of offense. There's a reason John speaks the way he does. All right, well, Dante says, why would we watch that? You're an Eagles fan. You can't watch some Eagles tape? Dante? What, is it criminal for you to watch a piece of Eagles tape because it's not Jalen Hurts? Big Trag says, was he playing against the starters? A Big Trag. How good was the Giants defense that we played against last week? I'm just saying, I mean, again, I'm not saying it's the perfect thing to hang your hat on, but to discredit it because it was a Week 18 game is stupid to me. It's Eagles tape, Dante. Go watch it, dude. Go watch it. It's fun to watch. I mean, seriously, you only watch Eagles tape of players you want? I mean, I watch all the Eagles tape. I agree, the comparison's not equal. I shouldn't have said it because I knew people weren't going to be able to contextualize what I was saying. I'm saying it points to the different styles of player. Jalen has a certain style. Tanner McKee has a certain style. Certain styles work in different environments or different moments. Right now, our offensive line doesn't look good. Right now, we're averaging 3.5 yards a carry in the run game. It doesn't look good. It's not a comparison, Dante. It's a contrast. It's looking at the two different styles. Right, Curtis. He also he was throwing to Dotson and Anais Smith. I mean, Anais Smith caught a touchdown in that game. He didn't deserve anything? Doesn't deserve any credit for that? All right, whatever. I digress. Changed my name 3 times because of YouTube. Yeah, Philly Todd, I don't know what they're doing. All right. The debate is Hurts fans versus Philly fans. Well, everybody should be a Philly fan. I mean, Jalen's a quarterback who's brought a lot of great success to this team, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. He does. Let me go to Jair. Am I pronouncing that right? Jair, option 1. Jair. What is it? I try to pronounce people's names right. McKee gets the ball out on time beautifully. Watch that touchdown pass to AJ against the Cowboys. That was a great release. Back shoulder throw. Well, it's good. I mean, it was good. Love him as a competitor and winner, but Hurts can't do it. Jair. Okay, thank you. I don't know, guys. I'm just a white dude, man. I don't fucking know. Jair. Look, I hear you. I mean, I think you're fighting a major uphill battle. I do. I think you're fighting a major uphill battle with the conversation. But I get it. I do. I get it. You know, the reason I started Zander Time today with the coaching point was because I'm looking last night and I'm like, all right, let me because somebody kept sending me the route trees, the route con. I showed you guys it. I'll show you it again. It's in my mentions. This is Devontae Smith's route tree last week. Okay. And then this is George Pickens' route tree. So I'm like, holy shit, you're right, man. That's crazy difference. So I went and looked, and I'm like, all right, let me go and figure out why are they running it this way? What is the issue here? Is it Nick Sirianni? Because this is Nick Sirianni's offense. It's not Kevin Petullo's. He's just calling the plays on Sunday. He's just picking off the play from the sheet to call in a given moment. He's not. You cannot call plays and be the architect of an offense. That's what Nick's role is technically right now. Apparently, he says it. It's my offense. Jalen has said it. Is how I want it to look. If you go back and watch Nick Sirianni's offense in Indianapolis with Phillip Rivers, again, I know Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Fame quarterback. I get it. It didn't look like this, right? The route concepts weren't trash. There was guys across the middle of the field. There was play action. There was all these different things. I'm not asking them to be that. But the reason it's not that is because the quarterback likes to play this offense. This is what the quarterback wants to play. Yeah, you're right, Special Kenny. The OCs pick off a menu that Nick chooses, 100%. Yeah, and Rivers played in shotgun too. Correct, Abe. More than I thought. More than I thought. I just urge you guys to go and look at it. It's just fun. Guys, it's football. Like I said the other day, I watch football. It's one of my hobbies. It's not my business, but it's also a hobby. I like to learn about my hobbies. I like to dive in. I don't just like to watch games on Sunday and say, woo, team won, boo, team lost, see you next week. I assume all of you guys who are listening to JAKIB Sports on a Wednesday morning are the same. It's fun to go and look at and learn more about the game and understand where Nick came from and why he is the way he is. It's just context. It doesn't mean you got to go one way or the other. I'm not saying Jalen Hurts is Phillip Rivers. I'm not saying Nick Sirianni is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Just context. That's all it is. Kimberly says, always say true. Truth lies somewhere in between. J-Mac was right there. The run game is not sustainable long-term. Look how banged up the offensive line is. Even Becton. Yeah, we've pointed that out. You know, Becton's hurt in L.A. Cam Jurgens coming off back surgery. I don't know if he's ever going to be the same. And then Landon Dickerson obviously banged up. Lane Johnson's missing more games. Jordan Mailata has slipped a little bit because I think the play of the left guard hasn't been as good. So, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, that's money. That is true. That is true. Curtis says, for those who don't like the Jalen blame, he isn't to blame for why we won't look the same this year. He is to blame for why we can't look different. It's a good comment. Gregorio says, Zander, you are asking this chat to actually watch football, and not just speak out of their feelings. Good luck with that. It's obvious this chat doesn't actually watch and see the game. Well, Gregorio, I believe in hope. I believe in the that people are capable of more. I always said JAKIB has a great chat. I mean, I think we do. I think we have a much smarter football chat than most places. I mean, go read Twitter for a little bit. Go read Twitter for a little bit. It ain't good. All right? It ain't good. So, I love football too, Big Mike. I do. I love the sport. I love the game. I love it. It's such a good sport, man. There's so much about it. There's a reason that we all love it. I mean, shit. Look at this business. My business, exists because of the fandom of football. It's a beautiful game. I don't think dissecting it and looking at it a little deeper, is a bad thing to do. Big Trag, you're right about that. Non-mobile quarterbacks haven't been winning chips. It's true, man. It's definitely a dying breed, Big Trag. But I do wonder how it shifts when you don't have not all non-mobile quarterbacks are the same, Big Trag. All right, not all non-mobile quarterbacks are the same. At least I certainly don't think so. King Marcus says, what do you think will happen if we lose Sunday? Ooh. 3 straight. Losing to the Carson Wentz-led Vikings. In Minnesota, by the way. I don't think it's going to be pretty, Big King Marcus, but at the end of the day, you got to see it through a little bit. It is only week 7. I know, it's getting later. You can't say it's only week 2 anymore, but it's getting later. But it's still too early. We got, 11 games left right now? 11 games. After the Vikings, we're going to have 10 games left. Now, if they lose to the Vikings and then they get swept by the Giants, I think you're gonna see some conversations that people don't want to see. I think the conversations that people are saying right now are crazy about Tanner McKee aren't going to sound so crazy. I think Howard Eskin, who went out on a limb here on October 13th or whenever he made that comment, I don't think he's going to be the only guy saying that anymore. Philly Ty, I think this is an exceptional take. He says, Z, I agree with your take that they harp on not turning the ball over too much. I don't want Jalen to be reckless, but I also want him to start taking risks for our playmakers. Philly Ty, why do we have him if you're not going to, right, man? I mean, it's the NFL, man. You're not going to – it's not the Big 12, okay? It's not the Big 12 or the Pac-12 or the Big 10. Hell, even the SEC for that matter. Teams have good defenses. Teams have NFL players, man. You don't just run open with, nobody around you. Nobody around you. You got to take risks to get the ball to your playmaker. You just do. It's the NFL. It's the NFL. You have to take some risk. And Niall, this is probably, Niall, the part that bothers me the most right now. Because as much as I've been critical of Hurts, he hasn't always been this way. I know he's not the progression pocket passer that other guys are. I'm not saying he is, but he's been better than this. He took more risk in 22. And I get it. It was RPO based where you don't have to read defenses as much. I understand that. But he's been better than this. Morty says, as a goaltender, you have perspective on hockey strategy. There are lots of nuances coaching and seeing the game from in the net. That's Morty. That was my favorite part about being a goalie. I used to always say, Morty, when I was a kid, if my life goes to shit, I'm finding a hockey team I can coach because I loved watching the game from the net. I did. When I was in high school, Brian Boucher, former Flyers goalie, was one of my coaches. We used to bring him out to some of our practices as the goalie coach. And he used to always say to me, you should think about coaching hockey one day, if you ever get to that point. I love hockey, and I love that perspective. It's interesting you bring that up. You do completely see the game from a different perspective. You really do. Ray, this is true too, man. Simple here. He says, the thing about Jalen that I don't get is if I'm staring a guy down, trust me, it's not going to be Jahan Dotson. I'm going to be my number one or number two. I agree, dude. What are you staring down Dotson for? With AJ streaking across the middle. Well, all right, everybody. Good show today. We did our giveaway yesterday for the legendary Texas Tea was our winner. All right. We're going to have some good shows, I'm sure, later on today. I assume the Battle Royale will come today. So, Chris, that's excellent, man. Underdog, what's up, brother? Underdog, I emailed you. I posted up your segment last night. Underdog, did you see that? Did you see my email? I sent you the link in your email. I'm not sure if you saw it. I'm not sure if you're getting my emails. Sometimes my emails go to spam. It drives me crazy. But no, it wasn't Mighty Ducks original. Can you see that back there? I know I got the light in the way. It wasn't Mighty Ducks, my friend. See that back there? I'm not going to take it off the wall, but you see what that is? Can you see what this is right here? It wasn't Mighty Ducks. It wasn't Mighty Ducks every day. It was Miracle. Loved Miracle, man. Favorite movie of all time. There's no movie on the planet that I've seen more than Miracle, and there will never be a movie that surpasses it. I'm not a movie guy as is. So Miracle. Jair says Underdog needs a channel. He does speak facts, man. He's a smart dude. Underdog, that's hilarious. He said, I watched the vid. I saw the title and said, oh, shit, I've got reinforcements. And it was me. Underdog, I had to post it up, man. I like to put out the different perspectives. I do. So I know people don't like it. This is why we lose subscribers, but I don't really give a shit. Yeah, I've seen Goon. Not my favorite. But it was a good video. I think that thing got a lot of play. Thing's got 2,000 views right now. I don't know how many comments it got, but it got quite a bit. Underdog, you know what was funny about it? Underdog, you know what was funny about it? Any of the people in the comments who disagreed with you, Underdog, they didn't challenge one thing you said. They didn't challenge one thing that you said. The only thing they challenged is, why are you giving this guy a platform? This guy's smoking a blunt. Why are you listening to him? All this shit. And I'm like, did you challenge any? This guy's crazy. This guy's hates Jalen. I don't know. If you're gonna challenge somebody, challenge what they say. Challenge what they say. Dispute what he says. Not who he is. Not what he looks like. Not what he's doing. Exactly. Feelings over facts, Underdog. It's a big part of the world today. All right. It is what it is. It was a good video, though. It is what it is. All right, everybody. Love all you guys, man. Appreciate you being here. Look, good conversation. I saw someone just say I took a set at it. Where was that comment? Let me pull that fucking thing up. Who was it? Yeah, Zander said it. Morty, I've been quite upset this week. I've had angry shows Monday and Tuesday. I gotta relax. I've been angry the last couple days. All right. Underdog says, Zander, there are those who actively seek truth and those who actively seek a place to hide from it. That might be true for a lot more than just football, Underdog, but I agree with you. I prefer to look for the truth wherever it leads me. By the way, how's that Saquon video on Prime? How's that Saquon doc on Prime? Should I watch that shit? I should probably watch it. Well, did anybody watch it yet, though? The Amazon Prime thing that came out last Thursday during the game? Is that something I should tune in? Was awesome. I'll check it out, Chris. I'll check it out. But, all right, love all you guys, man. Hit that like button, guys. We've been slacking in likes a little bit, so get those likes up. We have 350 people still in here. Smash that like button, man. We were losing to Cilio again in the likes. We were beating them for a little bit. Now we're losing to them again. Yesterday, we had slightly more views, but he had 40 more likes than us. So come on, man. I need some likes. He's beating us every day this week on the likes. Come on. Hit that like button. We need over 200 minimum. Curtis, me too. Angelo says, Zander, I got thrown out of Sunday dinner because of being so upset over the Eagles. That's funny. That is funny. Yeah, I've been upset too. I have. I've been angry on the shows. There's no doubt. Somebody commented that, Zander, you're angry this week. I'm like, I know, dude. I got to stop. But it is what it is. All right, guys. Love all you guys, man. We got to get this shit back on the road. We got to get this stuff back on the tracks. There's no doubt. Underdog. By the way, I did go and look, and people were very mad at me for referencing it today. You know, I did go and rewatch the Giants game last year. We were talking about with McKee. I saw what you saw. All right. I saw what you saw. Poor Ian East. He says, I traveled 7,000 miles round trip for that shit last Sunday. And we should have got a cheesesteak together or something. At least it would have maybe made your trip more worthwhile. I don't know if I'm that valuable. Maybe it wouldn't have made your trip more worthwhile. But Ian, good stuff, man. Chris, Underdog, Denny, Andrew Dirk. What's up, Andrew? Appreciate you being here. Crowley, Leon Banks, Original Philly. So appreciate all you guys. Hit the like button, man. Hit the like button. I might have to get a cheesesteak today, Ian. I'm eating too many cheesesteaks, though. I'm like back on a cheesesteak tour. I tell you what, that Skinny Joey's place is fucking good. Normally when a new cheesesteak spot pops up, they're not that good. Or they say they're good and they're not as good as they say they are. That Skinny Joey's is a good steak, man. It's a good cheesesteak. I might go to Delisandro's today, though. It's only 25 minutes from me, 22 minutes from me. I might pop over and get one. I got $20 cash here. So we'll see it. Yeah, Skinny Joey's is a good show. Oh, wait, I got one thing to show you guys. I got one thing to show you guys. So remember I was telling you guys about Broad Street? These shithead in the PPA. Remember I was telling you guys about Broad Street and the lights? They're unhinged. I got two more. I'm like, man, 35 miles an hour on Broad Street, which anybody who drives Broad Street, that's not fast. Look, they take let me block out my address. They got the full pics of the car and everything. I don't know if you can see it. It's probably a little blurry. Everybody be careful on Broad Street, man. Look at this. They're all warnings. I'm like, they're going to be ticketed. They're going to make so much money, man, on this bullshit. Fucking Broad Street. I tell you guys, I'm on Broad Street every other day. I'm going to get so many of these things. But I called my pop. I'm like, yo, what's up with these? He's like, yeah, pretty soon it's no longer a warning. You can see this is a warning notice. I'm going to block out my address. Warning notice. So, yeah. Be careful on Broad. Anything over 25 and you're cooked. Yeah, they should give me an award for driving a vet on Broad. I know Broad like the back of my hand, Morty. I drove it every single day for, the first 3 years I had a license. I drove it every single day. So I know Broad like the back of my hand. I know when to pop in the third lane, bust through the light, jump out in front, beat the lights. I know when to time the lights, when you have to speed up a little bit. So it is what it is. All right, guys. I love all you guys, man. Hit that like button. Great stuff, everybody. And I'll see you guys next time.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.